common folk. Where were they? Even if the foreign nations were not advanced, they should have arrived by ox cart by now. During the morning court, Li Shimin wore a grim expression. Those foreign tribes were fickle. They had clearly sent an official letter stating their intent to visit, yet none had arrived, which was an affront to the Tang dynasty. He summoned Li Jing to the palace, followed by Cheng Yaojin and Wei Qigong, calling 10 generals in succession. The civil officials bowed their heads in silence, fully aware that Li Shimin was genuinely angered. It was often said that military officials were the ones eager for war, but they were mistaken. It was the civil officials who were the true merchants of warfare. They remained oblivious to the brutality of war, thus indifferent. Each conquest yielded the most benefits for the civil officials, with countless positions available for those who could conquer lands. A prefect in 3 years can earn a fortune of 100,000 taels of silver. They had heard unreliable rumors about Cheng Chumo blocking people everywhere. Yet none dared to criticize him, because what Cheng Chumo was doing was right. He was a man of subtlety. Subtlety was regarded as a virtue in the Tang dynasty. Buildings at corners have sharp edges. When pedestrians bump into them, it is painful. The owner smooths the sharp corners to prevent injury. Only a kind-hearted person would do this. And Cheng Chumo was engaged in such work. The military officials arrived at the Taiji Hall. Select a nation to serve as an example. Li Shimin said with a darkened face. The ministers exchanged strange glances. Why did this idiom ring so familiar? They began naming neighboring countries. At this moment, a single word could determine the fate of a nation. This was the dawn of an empire, instilling fear in surrounding nations. After a lengthy discussion, Li Shimin remained unsatisfied. His ideal target was the north. Dividing the northern enemy was paramount. The last campaign against Goguryeo had forced a retreat due to their support. And another reason was the medicinal herbs. The elusive 1,000-year-old Ganoderma was hard to find. If we could secure the Changbai mountain region, the Tang dynasty would no longer lack for medicinal resources. This was a show of force. I have decided to seize the Changbai mountain area, thereby completely dividing the northern nations, Li Shimin declared. I second that. Li Jing bowed. He shared the sentiment, though his thoughts were not on medicinal herbs. Securing Changbai mountain would render the north inconsequential. The ministers exchanged glances, puzzled. Changbai mountain held no wealth. What use was capturing it in a sparsely populated area? Li Shimin noted their reaction. Changbai mountain is home to ginseng, deer antlers, and sable fur, valuable commodities, he stated with a smile. Li Shimin's words were aimed at enticing the aristocracy to finance the campaign. Without funds, how could one wage war? The ministers began to stir. The Tang dynasty was growing increasingly prosperous, and their own extravagance should follow suit. We concur, they all replied in unison, prompting Li Shimin to burst into laughter. His mood considerably lifted. Issue a decree summoning Cheng Chumo to the capital, Li Shimin ordered. The ministers were perplexed. Why summon that rascal? One cannot execute a show of force without Cheng Chumo, Li Shimin added. Those who spoke had intentions, and those who listened were discerning. The aristocratic ministers' lips twitched. They comprehended Li Shimin's implications. After the benefits had been discussed, it was time to demand military funds, and refusal was not an option. For Cheng Chumo would indeed execute a show of force. It would be far less embarrassing to pay now than to suffer under his machinations later. The Li family of Longxi was willing to contribute 50,000 coins and 100,000 stones of grain as military funds, one of their officials declared. They did not wish to part with their wealth so readily, but they had no choice. Failure to comply was not an option. The fear of Li Shimin's retribution loomed large over the entire Li family due to Li Huan's actions. They had to eliminate Li Huan upon returning. Haha, splendid. Li Shimin laughed heartily. At that moment, he felt an immense sense of relief. Who said matters of elixirs only brought negative consequences? The Li family was complying. I proposed Cheng Chumo as the vanguard, Li Jing suggested, bowing. Li Shimin remained silent, already having a candidate in mind. Ho Junji. Contact Shui Yintua and have him deploy troops to clear the area west of the greater Xing'an Mountains. Shui Yintua had split from the Eastern Turks and was a nation supported by the Tang dynasty, initially to counter the Eastern Turks. Now, however, they were of no use, merely offering tributes year after year. After the court session, Li Shimin wandered into the Liza Hall, lost in thought. A small girl climbed over to him. He scooped her up in his arms. My dear Zizi, he mused, reflecting on the name. A little female rhinoceros. Mother, Zizi cannot yet call you mother. This made him miss Empress Changsun even more. He resolved to visit Fufeng County. After all, it was not far, and he could reach it in a day. Chapter 82. A needle of merit in the back garden of the government office in Fufeng County. Cheng Chumo was instructing Empress Changsun and Li Lizzie in their martial arts practice. Cheng Chumo stood to the side, his expression dark as he watched, gritting his teeth. The martial arts they were practicing could prove disastrous if they encountered wrongdoers. It would be no act of resistance, but rather a means of entertainment. Cheng Chumo felt exasperated and rose to strike the sandbag with fervor, seeking release for his frustrations, even resorting to headbutting it. The collision left one somewhat dazed, leading to a series of over 20 somersaults, culminating in a final tumble that left the individual sprawled on the ground, staring vacantly at the azure sky and fluffy clouds. It was the first time I had witnessed such clumsiness, and while I hesitated to offer correction, I could only endure. Who could withstand such antics? Teaching both mother and son was indeed a lamentable task. Li Lizi's movements were quite erratic, while Empress Changsun was slightly more graceful, delivering soft punches to your chest. The prince is quite impressive. I wish to learn to somersault as well, Li Lizi exclaimed with admiration. Empress Changsun nodded, feeling invigorated after practicing martial arts. Indeed, martial arts are the finest remedy. However, somersaulting was perhaps best avoided. It could be deemed disrespectful if witnessed by others. Girls ought to learn feminine skills. What need is there for somersaults? Empress Changsun remarked. Ching Chumo felt like crying upon hearing this. Did she still wish to learn? Let whoever wants to teach them do so, he thought, sitting up. Mother, let us refrain from practicing martial arts, Cheng Chumo suggested. Empress Changsun, puzzled, inquired about the reason. This was advised by the divine physician. He claimed that learning martial arts could cure ailments. Li Lizi interjected eagerly. Cheng Chumo resolved to give them a stern lesson. Empress Changsun was correct. Women should indeed learn skills suited to them. As he rummaged through his mind, he recalled a form of martial arts that both genders could master easily. Rising, he began to teach. A watermelon cut in half, you take one half. And I take the other, Cheng Chumo chanted, gesturing with his hands. Empress Changsun followed suit. Cheng Chumo's movements were exceedingly slow, reminiscent of an elderly person with dementia, stretching his actions to the utmost. Empress Changsun imitated him. Surprisingly, it was quite relaxing, and after several repetitions, Empress Changsun discovered her mood had significantly lightened. In the distance, Sun Simiao wore a grave expression. Your disciple is remarkable. I have never encountered such a technique of leveraging force before, he commented. Long Gui nodded in agreement, his expression mirroring that of Sun Simiao. Such a skill cannot be created without decades of foundational practice. This is certainly not a creation of the disciple. Who could it be? Li Shimin, in disguise, visited Fufeng County, with little concern for Chang'an, where Crown Prince Li Chengqian and officials like Wei Zheng and Fang Xianling ensured safety. He decided to allow the Crown Prince to govern in his stead. Upon arriving in Fufeng County, he was taken aback by the orderly and vibrant streets, bustling with activity. He had not anticipated that red brick roads would appear so splendid. Entering the city, the streets accommodated hundreds walking side by side, with pedestrians and carriages remaining undisturbed. Carriages traveled in the center, while pedestrians kept to the sides. Vendors lined the streets, selling a myriad of goods, and astonishingly, no one wore patched clothing. Passing a stall selling candied hawthorn, Li Shimin bought a skewer for his son. Moving on, he encountered a large sign inscribed with 7 prominent characters, a single needle, boundless merit. Below the sign stood a man and a woman, with a soldier blocking Li Shimin's path, offering him a needle. Prick someone, the soldier insisted. Li Shimin's anger flared. Is this how you treat people? He realized Cheng Chumo, indeed, had inherited his father's reckless nature. Furious, he ordered, bring Cheng Chumo to me. The eunuch complied, but the soldier brandished his weapon, halting the eunuch. You stay right there. No one passes without pricking someone, he commanded. The eunuch glanced at Li Shimin, who was on the verge of eruption. He restrained himself, deciding to wait for Cheng Chumo to arrive to address the matter. Should the explanation prove unsatisfactory, he would not hesitate to punish him. The eunuch proceeded to prick a man and walked toward the Lord's mansion, where he found Cheng Chumo practicing martial arts. Upon seeing the eunuch, Cheng Chumo was momentarily stunned. What brings you here? He asked, realizing the eunuch was closely tied to Li Shimin's side. The emperor requests your presence, prince. Be cautious, the eunuch warned. Cheng Chumo followed the eunuch to the sign. To prevent revealing his identity, Li Shimin gestured for Cheng Chumo not to bow. He pointed at the pricked individuals. If you fail to provide an explanation, your title will be revoked. Cheng Chumo surveyed the injured and comprehended. This was a misunderstanding. Father, let us discuss this elsewhere. The 3 moved to a nearby tavern. The serving boy hurriedly brought forth fine wine and dishes, even calling the proprietress to personally attend. Li Shimin's expression darkened further. This was the epitome of arrogance. My lord, you must try this dish. I practiced what you taught the other night, and now my back aches terribly, Cheng Chumo remarked, a scowl crossing his face. Clarify yourself. Why is my backside sore from cooking? What does my sore backside have to do with you? Cheng Chumo insisted that she clarify, lest misunderstandings arise. The proprietress smiled innocently. Don't you know in your heart? She teased. Li Shimin wore a cold smirk, while the patrons stifled their laughter. Cheng Chumo stood up, feeling the need to clear his name. Seizing the proprietress by the collar, he tossed her directly into a middle-aged man's embrace. The man nodded vigorously, grinning foolishly. My lord, please don't be angry. My wife only wished to grow closer to you. The middle-aged man was unperturbed, for associating with Cheng Chumo brought benefits. The last time his wife learned from him, their business thrived unexpectedly. If she could learn another technique, their future would be bright. Be cautious, you two. Dare to evade taxes, and I shall see how I deal with you, Cheng Chumo warned darkly. Who do you think you are? Li Shimin could no longer contain himself. Cheng Chumo, you scoundrel, are running rampant here. The common folk wear no patched clothing. It must be your doing. Those vendors are undoubtedly your people, profiting off you. Father, this is a misunderstanding, Cheng Chumo protested. Li Shimin scoffed. What misunderstanding? Those 2 have lost the will to live. Let me explain about those 2, Cheng Chumo replied hastily. They are human traffickers. He spoke quickly, fearing for his safety. Li Shimin paused, taken aback. Human traffickers? You mean those 2 are human traffickers? Cheng Chumo nodded vigorously. Father, Think about it. Which parent wouldn't be frantic if their child went missing? That pain is much more severe than a needle prick. My actions are to ensure that all human traffickers know that if they dare to sell children, they must be prepared for the consequences. And I intend to see them suffer. Cheng Chumo's face was filled with indignation. Li Shimin felt a shiver run down his spine. To the point of death? I have never heard of needles being lethal. 10 years. 20 years. What a splendid method. Traffickers will surely feel chills run down their spines before they attempt to steal children. To ensure they understand the anguish of parents who lose their children, they must know the pain they inflict. Pricking them is a deed of merit. Thus, he issued a warning to the world. Anyone who dares to steal a child will face dire consequences. Chapter 83. To kill Cheng Chumo? Li Shimin engaged in a discussion with Cheng Chumo regarding external military affairs. Those diminutive states dare to provoke me. This is akin to courting death. Li Shimin took this matter to heart. For having reached the pinnacle of earthly power, his greatest concern was maintaining face. Those small nations showing him disrespect was tantamount to a death wish. Cheng Chumo felt uneasy, knowing that the envoys were currently languishing in the dungeons. Indeed, his father was right. These minor states needed to be dealt with. We desire land, not people, Cheng Chumo stated. Li Shimin chuckled and shook his head. The primary motivation for war is land, and the secondary is population. To desire land without people? Who would till the soil? Land that cannot be cultivated is no true land, merely territory. Both land and population hold equal significance, Li Shimin asserted. Cheng Chumo understood. Yet could those individuals truly farm in peace? It has never been the foreigners who tilled the land, but always the people of Huaxia. It is best not to let him take action. They must all be eliminated, especially the diminutive ones, leaving none behind. The two men, having exhausted their conversation, tossed a few coins and returned to the government office. Upon seeing Empress Zhongsun, Li Shimin's mood lifted. Empress Zhongsun, equally in good spirits, cradled her child with affection. Cheng Chumo took his leave with Li Lizzie. Once outside the government office, Li Lizzie expressed her concerns. My husband. Will father discover that it was you who captured those envoys? What shall we do? Cheng Chumo's expression grew grave. Could such a matter be concealed from Li Shimin? Even if it could be hidden temporarily, it would not remain so for long. Cheng Chumo had many enemies. This accusation was no trivial matter. The young couple stared at one another, aware that this was a capital offense. They ultimately decided to seek refuge elsewhere for the time being, planning to return once the situation calmed. With little to tidy up, they found an inn in the city to stay. Li Shimin searched for 3 days without success, his face darkening as he paced within the government office. Preposterous, utterly preposterous. How dare so many be captured and foreign envoys be intercepted? This is sheer lawlessness. Empress Zhongsun, without glancing at Li Shimin, proceeded to slice a watermelon in half. Guanyin maid, what punishment do you think I should impose? Li Shimin inquired habitually. After a prolonged silence, he expressed his confusion. Guanyin maid, I am addressing you. Oh, your majesty is calling for me. I did not hear. Empress Zhongsun feigned ignorance, glancing around as if searching for the source of the sound. Li Shimin was speechless, finding her act overly contrived. Doubts crept into his mind. Could it be that Empress Zhongsun was still upset over the matter of the elixir? Guanyin maid, please do not remain angry. I was merely momentarily confused. Li Shimin coaxed her gently. Empress Zhongsun reminded him, mind your own business. If you interfere in state affairs again, it will surely lead to future troubles. She had no desire to leave a legacy of discord for the Tang dynasty. Your Majesty, a memorial has arrived from Chang'an, a eunuch announced. Li Shimin opened the memorial. Trouble had arisen. He handed it to Empress Zhongsun, who, unable to restrain herself, unfolded it and stood frozen in place. Cheng Chumo was collectively impeached by the ministers. Erlang. Empress Zhongsun turned to Li Shimin, whose gaze was icy and countenance grim. Had it been a few dissenting ministers, Li Shimin could have appeased them. But with the entire court in opposition, he had no choice but to resort to extraordinary measures. The grounds for impeachment were substantial. Cheng Chumo had unilaterally detained all foreign envoys. This was no trivial matter, as it concerned the dignity of the Tang dynasty, which had always prided itself on being a nation of propriety. If mishandled, it would tarnish the Tang's reputation. And who would dare to believe in or pay tribute to the Tang thereafter? The timing of the impeachment only served to infuriate Li Shimin further. He was not in Chang'an, and the crown prince had failed to suppress the incident. What was the purpose of having a regent prince if he could not make decisive choices? Li Shimin felt a sense of helplessness. Could it be that every generation was inferior to the last? At this moment, the crown prince must defend Cheng Chumo, even at the risk of offending the entire court. Cheng Chumo himself was of little concern. He could be punished, but Cheng Yaojin could not be touched. Punishing him would equate to chastising the rebel lords of various regions, causing the old soldiers of Wagong to become disloyal. One must not underestimate the prestige of the Wagong generals within the military. They numbered in the hundreds, scattered across the land. This was no minor faction. If such a force were given to Li Shimin, he might dare to rebel once more. This incident caused by Chumo was too significant. I fear I cannot protect him, Li Shimin lamented. Empress Zhongsun appeared anxious, losing her composure. A thought echoed in her mind. Mind your own business. She steadied herself. Your Majesty, you must handle this. Chumo is not a child, and must bear the consequences of his actions. Having said this, she departed, Her small hands clenched within her sleeves, filled with worry. Yet she held it in. Sigh, bring Cheng Chumo back, send those envoys home, offer them some silk, and inform them that I am quite displeased, Li Shimin commanded. By doing so, the envoys would undoubtedly feel apprehensive, believing that their detention in Fufeng County was at Li Shimin's behest. The imperial will is inscrutable. They would surely ponder where they had erred for Li Shimin to act thus. This was a clever reversal. The first to speak would be deemed justified. The eunuch complied. When Cheng Chumo was brought back, Li Shimin's expression was grim. You have acted recklessly. Cheng Chumo remained silent. At this juncture, what use was there in speaking? Speak. Li Shimin commanded in a low tone. I was concerned they might deceive your majesty. If they came to pay tribute, it would be difficult for you to act against them, Cheng Chumo replied. Nonsense. Can mere tribute and submission obstruct the Tang's march toward expansion? Li Shimin's expression was one of frustration mixed with helplessness. Cheng Chumo was still young and lacked understanding of certain matters. What worth is a promise? Promises are only honored by those who keep them, and those small nations are hardly deserving. This confirms an adage. Truth resides solely upon the edge of a sword, and territory exists within the range of cannon fire. Cheng Chumo internally scoffed. Bluster all you want. Those who flatter you can easily lead you astray. And you truly believe that a title of Heavenly Khan makes you the ruler of the world? Indeed, one must admit, Li Shimin was, in that era, a true sovereign of the world. Upon returning to the capital, Li Shimin declared, I no longer wish to educate Cheng Chumo. Words would be futile. Plans change swiftly, and we shall take each step as it comes. Li Shimin set off for the palace, while Empress Zhang Sun did not follow. Cheng Chumo sat in the prison cart. Returning to Chang'an, Li Shimin directly commanded all ministers to convene in the Taiji Hall. Inside the hall, Li Chengqian kept his head bowed. Li Shimin was nearly driven to fury, eyes wide with rage. Who impeached Cheng Chumo? His voice was frigid. The ministers trembled, sensing the uncertainty of the emperor's mind. No one dared to speak. As they had all signed the impeachment together, there was no leader among them. Li Shimin's fury erupted. The ministers understood that Li Shimin was not angry merely because of the impeachment of Cheng Chumo, but rather because they had created a dilemma for Li Chengqian, and he had failed to resolve it. Li Chengqian kept his head down, not daring to utter a word. Bitter thoughts filled his heart. Surely, his father was very disappointed in him. Had he been able to handle this affair, he would surely be destined for the throne. Yet he had failed and could not tame those ministers. This indicated that he was unfit to be emperor. Very well, excellent, Li Shimin sneered. Let it be decreed. Cheng Chumo shall be executed. The ministers were left in shock, unable to believe what they had just heard. To kill Cheng Chumo? Killing Cheng Yaojin's son? Are you not afraid of the turmoil in the Tang dynasty? Your majesty, please calm your anger. Cheng Chumo's actions were unintentional and do not warrant death. Fang Xianling respectfully interjected. At this moment, one cannot merely seek self-preservation. It is imperative to persuade Li Shimin to retract his decree. The ministers echoed in unison, urging the emperor to remain calm. Chapter 84. Li Chengqian is an abnormality. The ministers persistently advised Li Shimin, yet he remained unmoved. Fear began to creep into the hearts of the ministers. What would Cheng Yaojin do if Cheng Chumo were executed? It was too dreadful to contemplate, unless they were to eliminate Cheng Yaojin as well. But what of those rebellious lords? Everyone knows that when the cunning rabbit dies, the hounds are cooked. How would they react? There remains a glimmer of hope in rebellion, while submission leads to inevitable demise. Those rebellious lords are not ones to hesitate. They will certainly revolt. What then? Would they dispatch Li Jing to suppress them? Could Li Jing even mobilize troops from various regions? It would be a challenge. Chaos would reign once more. Li Shimin's intent was not merely to execute Cheng Chumo. He was compelling them to yield. The ministers turned their gazes toward Li Chengqian, who was momentarily stunned as he observed Li Shimin. This was the emperor, a lesson learned. If one does not dare to make decisive moves, one's father would never ascend to the throne. If one lacks the ruthlessness, it would not be his uncle Li Jianqing who perished, but rather his father. Without recognition of kinship, Li Shimin would have long since turned to dust, buried beneath the earth. Li Chengqian was certain his father was prepared for the impending chaos. This was a true tyrant, terrifying. The mere thought sent chills down his spine. Viewing the world as inconsequential, anyone could be sacrificed if necessary, regardless of the destruction it may cause, or the suffering it may inflict upon the innocent. Li Chengqian felt torn within. He was convinced that uttering even a single word today could cost him his position as the crown prince. Gritting his teeth, he bowed deeply. I implore you, father. Please temper your wrath. Cheng Chumo's offense does not merit death. Li Chengqian was resolute. He could not bear to see his closest friend perish. Even if their relationship had become strained, even if his friend avoided him to escape suspicion, a friend is for a lifetime. Today, even if it meant losing his title as crown prince, he would plead for his friend. He had but one friend, his childhood companion, Cheng Chumo. Li Shimin erupted in laughter, rising and surveying the assembly with his hands clasped behind his back. The ministers hastily lowered their heads, for Li Shimin's gaze was piercing. The sovereign reigns supreme. Today, the crown prince oversees the affairs of state. I merely return to see who wishes for death, Li Shimin remarked. His voice, calm yet sharp, pierced their hearts. Their heads bowed even lower. The question of who wished for death echoed within their souls, leaving their minds blank. A single word can dictate life and death. The emperor's decree is law. Li Shimin walked towards the palace doors. Crown Prince, I demand an explanation. Who instigated this incident? I want them dead, Li Shimin declared before departing. The ministers felt their backs drenched in sweat. Li Chengqian regained his composure and took his place on the dragon throne. The ministers bowed, greeting him. We pay our respects to His Highness, the Crown Prince. No longer did they exhibit their former arrogance. They dared not underestimate Li Chengqian. He now wielded the power of life and death. Whoever he deemed to die would indeed meet their end. No one could shield them. Minister Wang, you spearheaded this. Did you not? Take him away and execute him, Li Chengqian commanded. Li Shimin had set a precedent. If he did not know how to act now, he might as well return home to tend to children. The first time overseeing state affairs required establishing authority. The best approach was to make the ministers acutely aware of his power. Not killing does not equate to an inability to do so. The ministers remained silent, understanding that Li Chengqian was asserting his authority. A friend's demise need not deter a fellow, they thought, seeking solace in their survival. Cui Jian bowed and said, Cheng Chumo's detainment of the envoy must have a valid reason. We beseech your highness to investigate thoroughly. The other ministers concurred, urging Li Chengqian to look into the matter. He felt a laugh bubbling within. Where was their previous bravado? Why did they not challenge further? What was there to investigate? Just release him. Cheng Chumo, in his loyalty to the Tang dynasty, had offended all nations. His courage was commendable, though his methods were somewhat crude. By my decree, Cheng Chumo is to be released without reward or punishment, Li Chengqian stated. Your highness is wise, the ministers chorused. They silently rejoiced that Li Chengqian sat upon the throne. For he would spare one life. Had it been Li Shimin, at least a dozen would have perished. They had accurately predicted this. Li Shimin would even execute his son. They were insignificant in comparison. They vowed never to act foolishly again. Some individuals were untouchable. After court, Li Chengqian personally released Cheng Chumo. Cheng Chumo had anticipated no repercussions. Dusting off his clothes, he declared, I am returning. He genuinely wished to avoid deeper ties with Li Chengqian. Aligning with him was one thing. He could not unravel his inner turmoil, fearing for his brother's life before his very eyes. Accompany me for a stroll, Li Chengqian suggested with a smile. Cheng Chumo's expression darkened. Li Chengqian, dare you harbor any intentions towards me, and I shall retaliate. Cheng Chumo scolded, leaving the eunuchs bewildered. How had they reached such a point? Li Chengqian, aware of his fault, cleared his throat to mask his embarrassment. Let us walk. This was already a concession for Cheng Chumo. Only he possessed the stature to elicit such a response from Li Chengqian. Cheng Chumo felt helpless. The request was not unreasonable. The two walked side by side. Do not act foolishly in the future, Li Chengqian advised. Cheng Chumo felt a pang of annoyance. While others may not grasp Li Chengqian's true nature, he understood it all too well. Everything was acceptable, save for one flaw, his attraction to men, which was intolerable. What did Li Chengqian perceive him to be? Uncertain. Mind your own affairs. Who instigated my impeachment? I shall seek my own revenge. Cheng Chumo distanced himself from Li Chengqian. Li Chengqian paid no heed, aware of his own occasional repulsiveness. You should refrain from inquiring. This matter is not directed at you. They merely wish to embarrass me. Li Chengqian explained. Cheng Chumo fell silent, sensing something amiss. It was too sudden. If the ministers intended to impeach him, why had they not done so earlier? Why wait until Li Shimin was absent from Chang'an and Li Chengqian was governing? It was merely to create a dilemma for Li Chengqian. You should refrain from writing. Be cautious, Cheng Chumo advised. He understood Li Chengqian's fate. He was a pitiful figure, having sailed smoothly through life until a horse-riding accident left him crippled, altering everything. The Tang dynasty would never permit a cripple to ascend the throne. Are you concerned for me? Li Chengqian looked at Cheng Chumo, his gaze unexpectedly hopeful. Yearning for Cheng Chumo's affirmation. Cheng Chumo shivered. Let me tell you. Just listen. There is no need for unnecessary words. My father forbids me from associating with fools. Think carefully. After saying this, Cheng Chumo hurried away. He could not withstand it. That little look was reminiscent of Li Li's charm. Passing by the Zhongliang residence, the grand doors stood open, still magnificent, yet eerily desolate. Cheng Chumo entered the courtyard. A woman was chatting by the pool and smiled upon seeing Cheng Chumo. Rising to tidy her hair. Are you here to deliver me? I lack the courage to end my own life. Grant me a swift resolution. I thank you, noble hero. Li Huan recognized Cheng Chumo's stature and concluded that the Fu Feng trio was indeed Cheng Chumo. You have a younger brother, do you not? Cheng Chumo inquired. Li Huan's heart tightened as she bit her lip, filled with sorrow and self-reproach. Had she inadvertently brought misfortune upon her brother? For so many years, she had refrained from contacting him, fearing that her troubles would ensnare him as well. I alone am responsible for all of this, Li Huan confessed. Cheng Chumo nodded inwardly. Recognizing her intent to protect her brother, there was still hope for redemption. Had she betrayed him outright, today would have marked her demise. Cheng Chumo harbored no sympathy for fragile beauty. His affections were reserved for his own, while others were dismissed with disdain. Chapter 85. The despicable pair your brother implored me to save you, and I acquiesced. But what value do you possess to warrant my assistance? Cheng Chumo stated. Li Huan's eyes widened in disbelief as she gazed at Cheng Chumo. Was there still a chance to live? Once brimming with indifference towards death. The prospect of it now filled her with dread. Life was indeed precious. Who would wish for death, even amidst the bleakness of existence? Can I truly survive? She asked. Stop wasting words. Articulate your worth. Cheng Chumo replied impatiently. Li Huan stammered, struggling to express herself. Cheng Chumo's expression darkened. This woman seemed capable of nothing beyond cruelty. Then he thought of another individual, equally ruthless, even more so than Li Huan. A decision was made. I shall arrange a marriage for you, Cheng Chumo declared. Li Huan bit her lip, realizing Cheng Chumo intended to extract her final ounce of value. Are you not afraid he may be like Zhang Liang? She asked. Her tone laced with sorrow. Cheng Chumo scoffed. Zhang Liang lacked the spine. If he had any courage, he would have dealt with you when you strayed. You may give it a try, Cheng Chumo added. With Li Huan's predicament resolved, Cheng Chumo returned her to the Cheng residence. Li Shimin and Cheng Yaojin were engaged in drinking. Cheng Chumo entered and paid his respects. Have you met Hai Ming? Li Shimin inquired without lifting his gaze. I have, replied Li Chengqian. Li Shimin chose not to pursue the matter further. He was displeased with Li Chengqian's regency, finding him indecisive and lacking the demeanor of an emperor. I told you not to associate with the crown prince. Did you not heed my warning? Cheng Yaojin bellowed. Cheng Chumo chuckled softly. Father, you said I should not play with Li Chengqian, yet we have not played. We merely discussed matters of consequence. Cheng Shimin exchanged glances with Cheng Yaojin, both bursting into laughter. I told you this lad is rebellious. What more can you say? Li Shimin remarked. Cheng Yaojin scowled as he drank, taking a hefty swig before turning to Cheng Chumo. You have now established your own domain. Certain matters are no longer my concern. You manage them as you see fit. Cheng Chumo nodded and exited the room. He understood the implications of Li Shimin and Cheng Yaojin's words. Those ministers had bullied Li Chengqian, revealing his inadequacies to Li Shimin. Though a prince, he lacked both followers and resources. If Cheng Chumo was willing to assist Hai Ming, he could do so. Cheng Chumo spent a night at home before departing for Mo village, where he encountered Yi and unceremoniously thrust Li Huan into his embrace. I have no place to put her. You are a solitary man in need of a wife. Henceforth you two shall be a couple. Yi stood dumbfounded, his face reddening. Losing the calm demeanor he once held, Cheng Chumo smirked, such a lack of ambition. And yet he could commit murder without a second thought. How easily he was swayed by a mere woman. Li Huan, dazed, found herself in Yi's embrace. She had anticipated Cheng Chumo would bestow her upon some nobleman, yet here she was, cast into a village and wed to a farmer. Hand over Li Huan. More than a dozen riders shouted at the village entrance. Yi looked to Cheng Chumo, who feigned indifference. They wish to seize your wife. Handle it as you see fit. Yi steadied Li Huan and retreated to a corner of the courtyard to dig a pit. With a curved blade in hand, he mounted his horse and prepared a meal. With that, he charged toward the dozen riders. Cheng Chumo watched with keen interest as Yi performed. The steed galloped back and forth thrice, and all the riders lay slain. Cheng Chumo shook his head, glancing at the awestruck Li Huan. Be cautious. Yi is a seasoned bachelor. You must endure. Cheng Chumo teased. Li Huan's face flushed as she gathered her skirts and dashed toward Yi's room. I shall prepare a meal. She had resigned herself to her fate. After Yi concluded the skirmish, the villagers rushed out to clear the battlefield. Cheng Chumo remained in Yi's home for dinner, where he recounted Li Huan's life story. Li Huan listened nervously, glancing shyly at Yi, aware of her shortcomings. Thank you, Captain. I possess a resilient spirit. If you find me a delicate woman, I fear I may inadvertently harm her. So she is just right, Yi remarked. Cheng Chumo nodded in agreement. Yi was indeed correct. The previous assailants were from the Longxi Li family, and he would inform them to behave. Rest easy, Cheng Chumo assured. After the revelry, Cheng Chumo retired to another room. The next morning, with dark circles under his eyes, he shot a furious glare at Yi. You truly lack shame. Could you not wait until I had departed before engaging in such antics? Yi's face flushed crimson. Li Huan timidly emerged from the room, her complexion flushed, trembling legs betraying her. She bowed to Cheng Chumo. Thank you, Count. Cheng Chumo waved his hand dismissively, cursing inwardly. Truly, a match made in heaven for such despicable souls. What a pair of wretched lovers. Departing Mo village, Cheng Chumo hastened towards Chang'an, arriving at the Li residence, where Li Jia personally came out to greet him. The Count's esteemed presence is a rare honor. Please, step inside. Cheng Chumo was no ordinary individual. He was a disciple of Li Jing, and though it had not yet been made public, Li Jia was certainly aware. Upon entering the parlor, the maidservants began serving tea. Cheng Chumo declined the beverage, finding it poorly brewed with an oily film atop. He could hardly fathom how people in ancient times found such concoctions palatable. What is valuable is placed within, I cannot comprehend. Li Huan is no longer a member of the Li family. She is now part of my Count's household. You would do well to align yourselves accordingly, lest you come to regret it, Cheng Chumo stated forthrightly, unaware of his standing as Li Jing's disciple. Li Jia nodded in agreement, refraining from mentioning the cavalry dispatched to their demise, considering it a trivial matter. A minor issue, a minor issue. I wonder how the Count views the recent expedition to Changbai Mountain, he inquired with a smile, aware that Cheng Chumo had not been assigned to the campaign. Li Jia sought to gain favor. Cheng Chumo's interest piqued. Was he extending an offer of assistance? Can your family persuade His Majesty? Cheng Chumo questioned, a hint of disdain on his face. Li Jia shook his head with a smile, acknowledging their limitations. But the 7 great families can. They understood that Li Shimin was determined to secure Changbai Mountain, and should they promote a candidate for the expedition, that individual would undoubtedly feel indebted, thus providing benefits to them. Unfortunately, they had chosen the wrong person. Cheng Chumo refrained from engaging further. He desired to participate, but would not allow the families to coerce Li Shimin into sending him. That would be an invitation to trouble. Rising, he declared, I must take my leave. If you have matters to discuss, do so now. Departing the Li residence, Cheng Chumo made his way to the imperial palace to seek an audience with Emperor Li Shimin. Upon meeting the emperor, he eagerly declared, Father, please allow me to go. I am well acquainted with Changbai Mountain, where I once routed 80,000 enemy troops. Li Shimin was momentarily taken aback. You routed 80,000? When did this occur? Clarify your statement. Cheng Chumo recounted his expedition to Changbai Mountain, and upon hearing it, Li Shimin expressed his admiration. Why did you not report this? He inquired. Cheng Chumo scratched his head, responding, You never asked. His answer was not without merit. Li Shimin nearly choked in disbelief. It was understandable that no one knew of Cheng Chumo's achievement in dispersing 80,000 enemies. Firstly, he had only commanded slaves, who would not speak of it. And the nation of Uji would not be foolish enough to disseminate their disgrace. As for Yuan Geisuan, he was known for his bluster. What could he possibly say? Very well, then. If you achieve merit, I shall reward you accordingly, Li Shimin stated. Cheng Chumo, filled with excitement, replied, The Tang dynasty is in need of medicinal herbs. Take the divine physician with you and pay special attention to ginseng and reishi. Li Shimin added. Cheng Chumo, without further thought, bowed in acquiescence. I shall return with ginseng and reishi, your majesty. Li Shimin nodded with a smile. You may withdraw. After Cheng Chumo left, Li Shimin produced a piece of parchment. Chapter 86. Reclaiming the border city. Cheng Chumo was appointed as the vanguard general, commanding an army of 20,000. He hastily returned to Fufeng County to assemble all the troops. Following the appointment of military officers, they were to lead their respective forces. Cheng Chumo took command of the troops from Fufeng County. Although he lacked the full 20,000, he had no choice. Even if he were to recruit new soldiers, he would require time to train them, and it would be better not to do so. Fufeng County possessed 10,000 regular soldiers and 5,000 slaves. The army was assembled, and Cheng Chumo wasted no time in personally training them. While their combat ability was not exceptionally high, it was certainly adequate. Against a typical force, they would undoubtedly prevail. The 3-3 formation, honed through rigorous training, allowed 3 soldiers to provide mutual cover and engage fiercely, with good coordination. They could take on 10 without fear. Even in modern warfare, the 3-3 formation remains a pinnacle strategy. Of course, it had its drawbacks. They were vulnerable to concentrated fire. Cheng Chumo had a profound understanding of the dangers of firepower coverage. Before his time travel, the military's developmental focus had been on firepower, and more firepower. The fear of inadequate firepower was deeply rooted in the hearts of every soldier. In the future, those who dared to confront Huaxia would soon learn what it meant to be plagued by fears of insufficient firepower, ensuring that their adversaries would regret engaging in battle with Huaxia. Artillery bombardment was merely a basic tactic. Enemies would witness snipers wielding greater power than cannons and countless suicide drones circling above, searching for targets. In this era, devoid of aircraft and cannons, Cheng Chumo resolved to utilize bows and arrows instead. 1,000 carts rolled into the training ground, ready for a massive volley of arrows. Each arrow measured 1 meter in length, with 100 launched simultaneously. The spectacle of 1,000 arrows released at once was truly terrifying. Carts filled with crossbows were transported to the training ground. These crossbows had remarkable penetrating power, capable of being stopped only by heavy armor. Distribution ensued, with each soldier receiving 30 arrows, a shield, and a tang knife. Cheng Chumo relinquished the spear, for he held no fear of cavalry. He commanded 1,000 Mo Dao troops. This configuration was sufficient for a campaign of annihilation. Cheng Chumo refrained from idle chatter, and after the review concluded, he returned to his office. Li Bin was diligently arranging provisions, working earnestly. Cheng Chumo was at a loss for words. The poison he had given Li Bin was fake, yet he had remained steadfast ever since. Li Bin, that poison was a sham. Could you not take a few steps? Cheng Chumo remarked. Li Bin chuckled softly. Fully aware of the truth, he needed a compelling reason to remain firmly loyal to Cheng Chumo. A self-deceiving justification. This way, he could claim he was coerced. And if one day a conflict arose between Cheng Chumo and the Li family, he could convince himself he had an excuse. The Earl is trying to deceive me again. How could a divine physician possess fake medicine? I shall not leave, Li Bin implied. Cheng Chumo gave him a thumbs up, not pressing the matter further. Li Lizzie saw Cheng Chumo return and rushed over, lifting her skirts. My prince, how long will you be gone this time? Her eyes were red, filled with reluctance at his departure. Not long. I've been to Changbai Mountain before, so you need not worry, my princess, Cheng Chumo assured her. Empress Changsun ceased her martial practice. Chumo, remember this, do not underestimate the world. Cheng Chumo responded affirmatively, though he was somewhat dismissive. He would heed his mother's warning and remain cautious in the future. 3 days later, the army set forth, with him as the vanguard general leading the way. A total of 15,000 troops were assembled from Fufeng County. Cheng Chumo had no need to worry about the defensive issues in Fufeng County. No nation could breach the heart of the Tang dynasty at present. As the army entered Yuzhou territory, a military order arrived from the rear. commanding them to accelerate their advance and await orders at the foot of Changbai Mountain. Upon receiving the command, Cheng Chumo ordered the troops to march at full speed. After a month of forced march, Cheng Chumo arrived at the border city of Uji. There, new guards had been stationed. After a brief reconnaissance, Cheng Chumo resolved to seize the border city and test the legendary massive volley of arrows. 15,000 troops surrounded the border city, which housed 10,000 defenders. The generals of Uji were nearly driven to madness with laughter. Who is the main general of the Tang? Is he a fool? Does he truly believe that 15,000 can assault a border city? What a joke. They ordered their men to closely monitor the movements of the Tang army, waiting for the inevitable failure of their siege before launching a full-scale attack. The Uji generals, reveling in their arrogance, laughed boisterously, but their laughter was abruptly silenced. An arrow, 1 meter in length, pierced through the roof and landed just a meter away from them. The military officer was filled with fury and alarm. What kind of arrow is that? Quickly investigate, he commanded, anxiety gripping him. The arrow was terrifying. The Lord's mansion, the most fortified structure, could barely withstand it. General, bad news. Long arrows are raining down from outside, and there's south no place to hide. A soldier rushed in to report. Just as he finished speaking, a long arrow pierced through his body. The officer, terrified, retreated to a corner, peering out through a window crack, his body trembling. It's raining arrows. Outside the city, after 3 rounds of volleys, Cheng Chumo waved the flag, signaling the cessation of fire. Half an hour later, he waved the flag again, commanding another volley. Once the arrows were expended, Cheng Chumo felt satisfied. Advance, he commanded. The soldiers raised their ladders and charged, encountering only scattered resistance. Upon breaching the city, the soldiers were horrified. The carnage was unimaginable. Countless corpses lay riddled with arrows, some writhing in agony upon the ground. The border city had transformed into a ghost town. This was the power of overwhelming fire coverage. When impoverished, one must infiltrate. When affluent, one must rely on firepower. Finish them off. The special forces began to shout. Having learned from their past experiences, the soldiers commenced their merciless slayings, and after the massacre, Cheng Chumo entered the city. I shall present a clever ruse to Uji. Cheng Chumo exclaimed with a hearty laugh. No one could have anticipated that 15,000 troops would capture the border city, not even Li Jing. Cheng Chumo penned a letter and handed it to the messenger. Inform Li Shuai that I, Cheng Chumo, shall steadfastly guard this place while awaiting his arrival. The messenger galloped away. Upon Cheng Chumo's arrival at the Lord's residence, he was met with a grim sight. Blood spattered everywhere, transforming the manor into a veritable porcupine. Alas, what a tragedy, Cheng Chumo lamented. The special forces remained silent, feeling it peculiar to hear such words from their captain. After his musings, Cheng Chumo resolved to lie in wait. Do not disturb the flag of the Uji kingdom. We shall wait for their reinforcements to enter the city, he commanded. The main force of Li Jing was too vast to conceal. The Uji kingdom would undoubtedly dispatch troops to support the border city. As for the number of soldiers, Cheng Chumo could not ascertain. Thus began a month of waiting. Small contingents began to infiltrate the border city. One would arrive, and Cheng Chumo would eliminate one. Yet, upon witnessing the incessant flow of supply convoys, he felt a chill. Just how many troops was the Uji kingdom mobilizing with such provisions? Should their numbers exceed 100,000, Cheng Chumo would find himself in peril. After dispatching 3 waves of supply convoys, the Uji kingdom finally realized that the border city had fallen. In a frenzied rush, their forces gathered 10 miles from the city, intent on reclaiming it before Li Jing's army arrived. Siege engines were already on their way. Cheng Chumo, standing atop the city wall, wore a grave expression. Are the fortifications prepared? He inquired. Yes, Commander, the special forces replied. Cheng Chumo gazed at the enemy's banners. These were not the flags of a single nation, but rather those of at least 4. As for their hesitation to attack, it seemed they were assessing the strength of Cheng Chumo's forces. A monumental battle was imminent. Chapter 87. The brutality. 3 days later, within the coalition's encampment, a towering general stood inside a tent. He was Tula, the commander of the Uji kingdom. Surrounding him were generals clad in various armors. Through extensive reconnaissance, they learned that the garrison commander of the border city was Cheng Chumo, the vanguard general of the Tang dynasty. It was he who had previously launched a surprise attack on the city, and unexpectedly, his tactics had caused the city to suffer significant losses twice. What strategies shall we employ against him? Tula inquired. The other generals slammed their hands on the table. A full frontal assault. The advantage lies with us. We have gathered over 300,000 troops here, 30 times the strength of the Tang's vanguard, with 10 times their numbers. We can breach the city. With 30 times, victory is assured. Tula laughed heartily. Yet, he had an even grander plan. I have informed Yuan Geisuin to find ways to delay the Tang army. Surrounding the point while striking at the circle is a tactic that more than just Li Jing can employ. Laughter erupted among the assembly. Their confidence in the conquest of the border city solidified. The coalition commenced their movements to encircle, launching simultaneous assaults from 4 directions, advancing in 9 waves of 1,000 each. Prepared, they awaited Tula's command to storm the city. Meanwhile, Cheng Chumo stood atop the city wall, his thoughts drifting to the concept of a counterattack. If Li Jing marches hastily, he may fall into an ambush. Will he provide support? Li Chengxian pondered aloud. His concerns were somewhat unfounded. Li Jing was a man of the greater picture, earning the title of war god for good reason. All troops, remain vigilant. Prepare for a volley. Cheng Chimo commanded. The arrows had been unloaded from the carts and positioned along the city walls. As long as there were arrows, they would serve as instruments of death. The enemy camp sounded the drums of war. Cheng Chimo's expression remained unchanged as he stood with hands clasped behind him, issuing orders. The siege had commenced. The coalition's catapults hurled stones the size of watermelons towards the border city, intermixed with burning rocks. Buildings crumbled as if made of paper, obliterated in a single strike. The simultaneous barrage was not excessively dense, yet the vanguard army suffered severe casualties, losing over 1,000 men to the bombardment. Fire! Cheng Chimo bellowed. A response must follow a challenge. He shouted. The arrows were loosed, a frenzy of soldiers hastily loading their quivers. They witnessed their comrades being crushed into a mangled mess. In that moment, any hint of cowardice would render one a disgrace. Arrows soared like avengers towards the enemy lines. After one round of fire, the enemy's assault force was thrown into disarray. The enemy provided Cheng Chimo no respite. As the first wave retreated, the second wave pressed on. The catapults continued their relentless assault, synchronized with the advancing troops. The vanguard faced not only the onslaught of massive stones, but also the relentless tide of enemy soldiers scaling the walls. In this chaos, the slaves revealed their fighting spirit, disregarding the falling stones, determined to defend the city. The burning rocks ignited buildings, and thick smoke billowed from the entire border city. The enemy's soldiers fell like dumplings, crashing down as the vanguard fought valiantly. Some, gravely injured, could no longer hold the city and charged towards the enemy. The vanguard suffered 1,000 casualties in this wave of assault. Cheng Chimo refrained from engaging. As the commander, he needed to remain to bolster the morale of his troops. The sight of him inspired courage in the soldiers to continue their fight. The third wave of the assault commenced. Fire! Cheng Chimo commanded, his voice steady, though his hand trembled within his sleeve, longing to join the fray. The arrows were released once more. This time, the density was not as great as the first volley, with many arrows struck down by the boulders and unable to be loosed. Yet, even with diminished density, the lethality remained horrifying. The enemy suffered a third of their strength in an instant. The enemy made adjustments. The third wave retreated, and the fourth wave advanced. Fire! Cheng Chimo ordered. As soon as the enemy regrouped, Cheng Chimo unleashed another volley. The fourth wave was repelled, the enemy learning from their previous errors, refraining from sending their regular troops into the fray. Thousands of disheveled individuals were driven forward. Cheng Chimo's eyes reddened. He understood the enemy's intentions. These were clearly captured Tang people. The enemy commander laughed heartily, issuing orders to advance. They sought not only the border city, but also to tarnish Cheng Chimo's reputation. Thousands were herded to the foot of the walls, staring blankly at the fortifications. Cheng Chimo's heart trembled. He closed his eyes, a single tear fell. Fire! He commanded. His voice as calm as still waters, devoid of ripples. Military orders were like mountains. The soldiers gritted their teeth and unleashed a volley of arrows. Such actions were known to them, yet when it came time to act, it felt as if arrows pierced their hearts. Why were those crushed by stones not themselves? The cries of agony echoed throughout the border city as men fell like wheat. Cheng Chimo could not show mercy. He must hold the border city, waiting for Li Jing to resolve the conflict. In the face of war, lives were as insignificant as ants. The battlefield was dominated by two sounds, the commands of Cheng Chimo and those of Tula. After thousands were slain, the enemy finally realized their plight and began to scatter, only to find themselves surrounded and slaughtered. Cheng Chimo observed this scene. In this era, the Han were referred to as sheep, seen as easy prey. I, Cheng Chimo, swear that you shall all meet your end. He roared, his eyes ablaze with fury. Kill! The vanguard shouted in unison. The enemy laughed in arrogance. These captives had consumed a significant number of Cheng Chimo's arrows, questioning what he would have left to defend with. The enemy launched another assault. Cheng Chimo joined the defense, realizing that his role as commander was no longer necessary to inspire his troops. The soldiers fought valiantly, each one driven by the haunting memory of their fallen comrades. Revenge consumed their minds, and for them, every enemy slain felt like a victory. The first day of the siege had ended in failure. As night fell, the enemy's harassment continued unabated, with catapults relentlessly launching projectiles. Outside the city, the sound of drums and gongs echoed through the darkness. Many in the vanguard army found it impossible to sleep, tossing restlessly. Cheng Chimo was no exception. As dawn broke, the enemy launched another assault on the city. Observing the battlefield, Cheng Chimo realized that their current defensive strategy was inadequate. He summoned the special forces, determined to lead a charge against the infantry that comprised the enemy's assault. If they could disperse the enemy ranks with cavalry, they might yet hold the city. The gates swung open, and Cheng Chimo galloped forth, charging into the fray. The enemy, caught off guard while maneuvering their ladders, descended into chaos. Cheng Chimo moved through them as if in a realm untouched by others, cleaving left and right, his figure drenched in the blood of adversaries. The enemy retreated in disarray, abandoning their armor. Is that all you've got? He bellowed, his voice echoing with fury. The vanguard soldiers rallied, their spirits lifted by their general's prowess. The enemy, in desperation, dispatched cavalry, and a volley of arrows rained down, leaving countless bodies in their wake as they fled. The siege, primarily the domain of infantry, left the cavalry powerless to intervene. After 3 more waves of attacks, the enemy began to ram the city gates. Seal them, Cheng Chimo commanded. Some strategies could only be executed once. If they did not fortify the gates, the enemy would inevitably breach them. As the gates were shut, a heavy silence enveloped the soldiers. They understood the grim reality that sealing the gates meant no one would escape alive. 3 days passed in this manner. The vanguard army dwindled to a mere 800, while the special forces were reduced to 30. Cheng Chimo sat atop the city walls, tearing a piece of cloth from his garment and dipping his fingers in the blood-stained earth. Chapter 88, The End of War. Cheng Chimo's transformation. General Cheng Chimo penned a letter recounting their arduous 7-day struggle, during which they had slain 27,000 enemies. With arrows depleted and weapons broken, he declared that today would be the final battle. He requested a military banner for the vanguard and urged the emperor to care for the families of the soldiers. With a resolute heart, he sealed the letter and wedged it into a crevice in the wall. He held faith that the Tang army would reclaim their ground. It was merely a matter of time. Gather round, Cheng Chimo called. Soon, the remaining vanguard soldiers assembled, each bearing wounds. Cheng Chimo committed their faces to memory. This is my fault, he lamented, recognizing that his impatience had led to their current plight. The essence of warfare lay not merely in killing the enemy, but in shattering their resolve. The soldiers, however, remained stoic, fixated on a singular thought: revenge. Victory or defeat had become irrelevant. Survival was now a distant concern. The more comrades fell, the greater their hatred grew. Those who had trained alongside them were gone, and the living were left with one mission: to avenge the fallen. We are at a crossroads, he declared. Today marks our final stand. Beyond this day, we may find eternal rest in this cursed land. However, I wish to leave a path for our vanguard and the special forces. Step forward if you wish to be that person. The soldiers collectively stepped back. A 12-year-old recruit looked around, bewildered. General, I can't step forward, he murmured, retreating, only to be pushed forward by the soldiers behind him. Get back. The boy gazed at them, confusion etched on his face. Their kindness had been evident, and the harsh command hit him hard. His dry eyes could no longer shed tears. Please let me return to the ranks. I want to die with you. The soldiers remained unmoved, adhering to tradition. It was customary to leave the youngest behind. Cheng Chimo turned to the special forces. We shall leave one behind. He closed his eyes and pointed randomly. A special forces member stepped forward, bowing. At your command, he shouted, his voice cracking, resonating with an unsettling intensity that pierced the soul. Go, take the boy to the well and hide there. When we reclaim the city, you shall return with us. Understood. They replied, departing. Cheng Chimo faced the remaining soldiers. Are you ready to charge? He asked. They shook their heads. Laughter mingled with despair. They could not muster the strength to advance. Merely standing was their limit. Then let us make our final stand upon these walls. Today, we shall fight valiantly. And in our next lives, we shall be brothers. Cheng Chimo proclaimed, laughter erupting from the soldiers as they expended their last reserves of energy. The sound of battle drums resounded again as the enemy launched another assault. The vanguard faced not only their own dire fate, but that of the enemy, who were not faring much better. 25,000 lay slain, with 80,000 injured, a staggering figure that shattered the coalition's morale against the Tang dynasty. The vanguard, numbering 15,000, had repelled numerous attacks, inflicting over 100,000 casualties upon the enemy. What other armies could rival the might of the Tang? As Li Jing had yet to arrive, what hope did they possess of facing him? Would they dare confront the Tang forces again? Their spirit had been thoroughly crushed by the vanguard's ferocity. As enemy soldiers scaled the walls, the vanguard resorted to a one-for-one strategy, their weapons long depleted. The most effective method of killing had become leaping into the fray with the enemy. Cheng Chimo wielded his bronze sword with reckless abandon. Hours slipped away as the battle raged atop the walls. Night fell, and the sounds of sporadic conflict echoed in the darkness. Cheng Chimo, exhausted, collapsed onto the ground. Gasping for breath, 2 special forces members approached, pulling him away. Captain, we've thought it over. It's better for you to survive, they insisted. Cheng Chimo shook his head. Let me go. I cannot abandon my soldiers. You have no soldiers left. We are already dead men. Living a few more years is a gain. Being part of the special forces has shown us the joy of being revered. We wish to be heroes. So please do not contest this, they urged, leading him to a well. At the edge of the well, one of the special forces members called out. And upon receiving a response, they pushed Cheng Chimo into the well. They saluted him, exchanging a knowing smile before rushing back to the walls. 3 days later, Li Jing arrived. The coalition crumbled without a fight, and he commanded his army to pursue for 500 miles, leaving a river of blood in their wake. A large and a small figure helped Cheng Chimo emerge from the well, yet he remained unconscious. Li Jing's expression was complex as he regarded the fallen general. The vanguard has achieved great feats, he announced, and the military leaders bowed their heads in acknowledgement of the truth. The price of victory is often paid in countless lives. Let us return your general to Chang'an, Li Jing added. They said little in reply. The special forces member carried Cheng Chimo, while the young soldier held the bronze sword and bore the military banner. In the vast desert, under a solitary plume of smoke, with the sun setting over the river, They made their way to the Fufeng County government office. Sun Simiao tended to Cheng Chimo's wounds. After a long while, he turned to Long Gui, who understood the unspoken exchange and rose, departing the room with him. Old turtle, your disciple seems reluctant to awaken. This blow has been particularly heavy for him. Sun Simiao remarked. Long Gui nodded in agreement. Let him rest. The two exited quietly. Cheng Chimo found himself ensnared in a lengthy dream, relentlessly pursued by the vanguard army. General, you must not act impulsively. I entrust my entire family to you. Allow my son to join the vanguard army. Tears streamed from the corners of Cheng Chimo's eyes. I was wrong. I insisted on rejecting my brothers, only to realize that my soldiers are indeed my brothers. I was mistaken. I truly was. Sorrow proved to be futile. It was time for him to take responsibility. It was time to awaken. As Cheng Chimo opened his eyes, Dan Yang entered, holding a candy figure. Startled, Cheng Chimo gasped. You nearly frightened me to death. Here, have this candy. Dan Yang reluctantly offered the candy, knowing Cheng Chimo was the most significant person in her life. He accepted it, took a lick, and found it bitter. Returning the candy to Dan Yang, he said, go play and call Li Bin here. Soon after, Li Bin arrived in a wheelchair. Rising to salute. What is your command, my lord? Cheng Chimo instructed. Distribute 10 guan to the families of the fallen soldiers, tax exempt for 10 years. Go. Li Bin acknowledged the order. Your Highness, the crown prince fell from his horse a few days ago, he reported. Cheng Chimo froze, sitting upright. You may leave now. Once Li Bin departed, Cheng Chimo pondered. Will Li Chengqian continue down the same path? I have lost 15,000 brothers. I shall no longer evade my fate. You. My brother, I acknowledge as Cheng Chimo. Rising from his bed, he prepared his horse and rode swiftly towards Chang'an, heading straight for the eastern palace. Upon seeing Li Chengqian, Cheng Chimo's eyes reddened. Your leg is broken. It was not from the fall, but trampled by a war horse. Some fractures are comminuted, even if reattached. Your left leg will be shorter, rendering you a true cripple henceforth. You have arrived, Li Chengqian remarked, having previously descended into madness and chaos, now resigned to his fate. Indeed, I have come, Cheng Chimo replied. Let us have tea. A smile graced Li Chengqian's pale face. Cheng Chimo lifted the teacup and took a hearty sip. Once, he had detested tea, finding it unpleasant. Today he understood. Drinking tea was akin to reminiscing. It was a bittersweet reflection on the past. What nonsense about tea ceremonies and artistic teas. They are mere distractions. Tea is but a conduit for memory. A leg crippled matters little. I shall shoulder all burdens. We are brothers. Cheng Chimo set down the teacup. Chapter 89. The northern army of Fufeng. Li Chengqian shook his head. My life is over. A severed leg signifies the loss of everything. History has shown that a cripple cannot become an emperor. It is easier to descend from frugality to extravagance than to reverse the process. Without the title of crown prince, I do not know how to live. Losing the power in my grasp was unfathomable. Where do I go from here? I am delighted you could come to me, Li Chengqian said, his demeanor somber. How long can I continue to refer to myself in this manner? I do not wish to implicate you. I have heard you have suffered greatly this time. What are your future plans? He sought to spare Cheng Chimo from entanglement, having resolved to stake everything on a singular gamble. Am I to fear implications? You know I am called Cheng the Fool, do you not? The harsher the connections, the greater the rewards. If you become emperor, grant me all the princesses to warm my bed, Cheng Chimo jested. Very well, Li Chengqian chuckled, his indifference towards the notion of sisters apparent. As the legitimate firstborn, he received abundant affection, rendering him somewhat selfish. Moreover, the royal family lacked genuine emotional bonds. One sister might be cherished, but a multitude would diminish their worth. Focus on your recovery. I have matters to attend to. Cheng Chimo shot Li Chengqian a disapproving glance, disliking his cavalier attitude towards women. Upon returning to Fufeng County, Sun Simiao and Long Gui had already prepared their belongings to venture to Changbai Mountain for medicinal herbs. Cheng Chimo, uneasy, had Long Zhan accompany them. Watching them depart, a profound emptiness engulfed him. Time had changed, and he sought out Li Bin to assist in the aftermath, delivering condolence payments house by house. Upon reaching a household, Cheng Chimo felt a whirlwind of emotions as he clasped his hands in greeting to a middle-aged man, who returned the gesture. Everyone come out, he called into the home. 4 young men emerged. You must leave one to care for me. Take the rest with you. The man's eyes glistened with tears. His son had perished. A white-haired man mourning, a black-haired one. Yet, his son was a hero, a champion of Fufeng County. The 10 guan would sustain 100 children, and in this time, raising children was a different endeavor. Thrift was essential. Tax exemption for 10 years would ensure the family was well fed. Cheng Chimo shook his head, unwilling to be the cause of further misfortune. The 4 young men grew anxious, their aspirations mirroring that of their brother, to serve as soldiers. They collectively turned to their father. My lord, please accept them, implored the middle-aged man. Cheng Chimo ultimately consented to take 1, leaving 3 for the father to nurture. As they spoke, a woman emerged from the room, cradling a child. Look, I have another here, the man said. Li Chengqian was left speechless. Indeed, there were many children. It was customary for families to have 3 or 4 children, with some having as many as 8 or 9, the most tragic being that many were daughters, deemed burdensome. In that era, there were no leisure activities. With nights devoid of engagement, procreation was commonplace. Without contraception, Pregnancy led to childbirth. Cheng Chumo spent half a month on his rounds. He found that, without the need for conscription, over 20,000 men were already willing to enlist, double the previous number. An unexpected outcome. However, these 20,000 could not be counted as soldiers. Without Emperor Li Shimin's decree, recruitment was not permitted. He penned a memorial. Fufeng County lacks soldiers. I humbly seek permission to conscript troops, hoping for your majesty's grace. The soldiers from the battle at Changbai Mountain displayed unparalleled bravery, and I request your majesty to bestow upon us military orders. Once completed, he tucked the memorial into his robe, planning to present it during the next morning assembly. 3 days later, during the morning court, Li Jing returned from the campaign, and the envoy from the Wejiguo arrived to discuss peace. We from Wejiguo are willing to offer 100 Lingji mushrooms, 100 ginseng roots, and 10,000 warhorses, hoping for harmonious relations, the envoy stated, bowing respectfully. In the Tang dynasty, we must adhere to our customs. Agreed, Li Shimin replied, his expression inscrutable. Your majesty, this matter must not be taken lightly. Our troops suffered significant losses in the border conflict. This cannot be overlooked, urged Fang Xianling. The ministers echoed his sentiments. By this time, Wejiguo had already capitulated. Such scant offerings for peace were inadequate. At least double the amount was required. I find myself in a difficult position, Li Shimin remarked, engaging in a subtle interplay with his ministers. The envoy was not foolish and recognized the intent to extract more tribute. They could only endure. Fully aware they could not contend with the Tang dynasty. Raise the tribute amount. That is the utmost limit for Wejiguo. They cannot provide any more, the envoy conceded. I too wish to spare the common folk from the ravages of war. Thus, I will accept Wejiguo's tribute and agree to peace, Li Shimin declared with a smile. Your majesty is wise, the ministers chorused in agreement. The envoy took his leave, and Li Shimin turned to Cheng Chumo. You have made significant contributions in this battle. I hereby confer upon you the title of Marquis. Li Shimin was exceedingly pleased with Cheng Chumo. As the battle at the border city had showcased the might of the Tang dynasty, compelling the surrounding smaller nations to bow in submission, Cheng Chumo bowed in gratitude, retrieving a memorial from his bosom, which a eunuch promptly delivered to Li Shimin. Upon reviewing it, Li Shimin deemed Cheng Chumo's memorial inconsequential, for it was inconceivable that Fufeng County would be without soldiers. However, he could not allow Fufeng County to dominate entirely. I grant the military title of Fufeng Jinbei Army, and permit Fufeng County to conscript 10,000 troops, Li Shimin declared. Cheng Chumo expressed his gratitude once more, although the number was limited to 10,000. He understood that Li Shimin would not permit the Fufeng Jinbei army to grow excessively powerful. This was not a matter solely directed at Cheng Chumo, as he treated all military leaders in the same manner. I have decided to establish the Jingzhou prefecture. Which of you noble ministers believes would be most suitable to serve as the prefect of Jingzhou? Li Shimin continued. The ministers understood well the purpose behind the establishment of Jingzhou prefecture. Cheng Chumo had gained renown through his battle, and this needed to be restrained. The ministers refrained from speaking out of turn. After all, the Jingzhou prefecture controlled the Chang'an region, and the prefect was no ordinary official. Li Shimin undoubtedly had a candidate in mind. The three auxiliaries, Jingzhou Prefecture, Fufeng County, and Fengxiang County, collectively known as the Three Qing. Changsun Wuji stepped forward, stating, in my opinion, Prince Wei would be the most suitable. Many ministers nodded in agreement. Li Shimin acknowledged, then it shall be Prince Wei. After the court session, Cheng Chumo rode back to Fufeng County, feeling a sense of sorrow for Li Changqian. The royal family was merciless. Just as he had severed ties with Li Tai, the latter's influence had surged. Li Changqian commanded the 6 divisions of the Eastern Palace, while Li Tai held the Jingzhou Prefecture. Was this a balance of power? Upon passing through the city gate, he noticed several soldiers pasting notices. Cheng Chumo approached to see that they were summoning renowned physicians from across the realm to Chang'an. So that is it, he murmured to himself as he exited the city. With Lingji having just arrived, Li Shimin was eager to bring famous doctors into Chang'an. What was his intention? To concoct elixirs, of course. Let him indulge, just ensure the empress does not consume any. With a flick of his whip, Cheng Chumo urged his horse onward, galloping back to Fufeng County. He was indifferent to whether Li Shimin consumed the elixirs or not. Good advice often falls on deaf ears. I cannot meddle too deeply. There are matters beyond my control. As for the rivalry between Li Tai and Li Changqian, Cheng Chumo had his own plans. Who said a cripple could not be an emperor? It was time to develop military industry. To assist Li Changqian, one needed strength. Without it, words were meaningless. Upon returning to Fufeng County, Cheng Chumo summoned Li Bin. Establish a school, recruit students, and allow free enrollment. Go and fetch Sun He. Li Bin complied. The dark-skinned Sun He entered the room, bowing. What is your command, master? He said, his voice tinged with grievance. He was currently very busy. Cheng Chumo had provided him with boundless resources for research, and he had not disappointed, developing a large-scale volley system. Chapter 90. Seizing the opportunity while the tiger sleeps to accelerate development. You should train some apprentices. A single mind is limited. Cheng Chumo sighed. This Sun He is a research fanatic. He is too independent. I am too busy, Sun He replied. Cheng Chumo frowned. I do not care. You will do as I instruct. Sun He grimaced but nodded in agreement. After Sun He departed, Cheng Chumo prepared to study gunpowder. This was a field he did not understand, but someone else did. An alchemist. Where to find an alchemist? Li Huan would surely know. Arriving at Imo village, he found Li Huan cooking, living a life of great joy. Ichi had been elected as the village chief, teaching the villagers martial arts daily. Upon seeing Cheng Chimo, she exclaimed, "Master, you have arrived. You may practice among yourselves." After instructing them, she took Li Chengxian home. The meal was just prepared, clad in an apron. Li Huan beamed. "Master is here just in time for dinner. Let us eat together." Li Huan felt deep gratitude toward Cheng Chimo. She relished her current life. And Ichi did not disdain her. No, she should now refer to him as Old Imo. Even the village chief called him Old Imo. Cheng Chimo sat down, tasted the dish, and found it quite good. "Do you know where I can find an alchemist?" he inquired. Li Huan was quite knowledgeable about such matters. "Master, you are not thinking of refining elixirs, are you? That is not reliable." She feared that Cheng Chimo sought to concoct elixirs, believing immortality impossible. Cheng Chimo shook his head. "I need an alchemist to conduct research in Fufeng County." Li Huan listened, somewhat confused. "You are being difficult, my dear. When the master asks you something, you should simply respond without all this unnecessary chatter. Where are they? Speak quickly." Old Imo interrupted Li Huan, glaring. She resembled a frightened kitten. "I was wrong, master. The alchemists are all cultivating on the mountain." Li Huan said sweetly, a typical cunning one. "Do not worry, tomorrow I will bring my family to fetch them." Old Imo said. Cheng Chimo secretly admired Old Imo. How many men would feel ashamed by such a person? "Good, the sooner the better," Cheng Chimo replied. After dinner, Cheng Chimo left a heap of copper coins and departed. On the way back to Fufeng County, he contemplated whether to establish a bank. Carrying copper coins was cumbersome. "If I wish to open one, I shall." Establishing a bank required prestige, and Cheng Chimo's was barely sufficient. There was also the matter of printing. This was simple, as anti-counterfeiting measures were easy to implement. However, convincing others to accept it posed a challenge. The best method was to ensure substantial trade. If Fufeng County provided what was needed, people would come to trade with paper currency printed by Fufeng County. In time, Fufeng County's currency would circulate widely. If Fufeng County became a commercial hub, then its currency would effectively be the currency of the entire Tang dynasty. It could be labeled as internal currency for enterprises. As long as the enterprise was sufficiently large, it could be used nationwide. Li Shimin would likely not interfere, as he was preoccupied with alchemical pursuits. The aristocracy would not trouble Cheng Chimo at this time, being too busy vying for benefits. The timing was fortuitous. While the tiger slumbered, the wolves would feast. This was a divine opportunity. Fufeng County must accelerate its development. The supply of textiles could no longer satisfy Cheng Chimo's plans. Salt was in short supply. At this time, salt wells produced very little. While there were many salt fields, the salt produced was toxic and inedible. There was a method to resolve this. Through solubilization, the toxicity could be diminished after several cycles, making it consumable. However, this method was labor-intensive. Workers would succumb to poisoning after a while, and the most severe cases would result in death. Gradually, no one dared to continue the salt washing work. This was also the reason for the scarcity of salt. It was a matter of life and death, with no good solution for the toxicity. Cheng Chimo had an idea, using charcoal. This way, there would be no need to repeatedly wash the salt. It could be done in one go, and workers would not have to remain in the brine for extended periods. Summon Xiazhu, Cheng Chimo instructed a soldier. Xiazhu jogged over, her face lighting up upon seeing Cheng Chimo, as she had feared he might abandon her. Unlike the docile Li Huan, she craved power and desired to be utilized. The matters of gender held little weight for her, as her upbringing had been different. She had grown up among the Turks, who did not concern themselves with such distinctions. In the Tang dynasty, it was customary for women to serve guests, much like the practice of taking concubines. In this regard, Li Yuan was quite adept. During this era, women were often treated as mere garments. "I have arrived, master," Xiazhu announced, her eyes brimming with anticipation, hoping for a task from Cheng Chimo. Being desired, even briefly, was of little consequence as long as it was Cheng Chimo's wish. "Can we acquire the salt mine?" Cheng Chimo inquired. 10 coins per cart, Xiazhu replied, revealing its lack of value. This also subtly encouraged the common folk to refine their own salt, as they were not oblivious to its dangers. Cheng Chimo rejoiced at such affordability. In the marketplace, salt was a rare commodity, where a handful equated to a bushel of grain. "We shall prosper. Take 10,000 coins to purchase the salt mine. The more, the better. Establish collection points nationwide. Son, he has managed to produce 4-wheeled carts in bulk," Cheng Chimo commanded. "Yes, master. Rest assured, I will see it done," Xiazhu replied, her youthful face glowing with excitement at the significant venture. "Would you like to experience my capabilities?" Xiazhu's gaze was enticing. Cheng Chimo shot her a stern look. "Focus on your duties. I have no time for distractions," he replied coldly, showing his lack of interest in frivolities. He had no need for infidelity, especially with Dan Yang nearby, should he wish to indulge. Xiazhu chuckled softly, her slender waist twisting as she departed. Dan Yang then entered, bouncing joyfully. Cheng Chimo swiftly lifted her. "What are you doing?" Dan Yang exclaimed, her cheeks flushed. Cheng Chimo remained silent. Moments later, Dan Yang chased after him, playfully scratching him. "You scoundrel! Stop! You're bullying me!" She pouted, feigning anger while relishing the moment. Cheng Chimo wore a smug expression, darting away in a flash. He sought a location to establish a salt field, requiring an abundance of iron, which was insufficient from Fufeng County. Therefore, he decided to visit the Lu family. Upon arriving at Chang'an, Lu Jingzhou personally welcomed him. It is an honor to meet you, Marquis. Your victory at Changbai Mountain is truly commendable, Lu Jingzhou praised. To others, this was a tale worth boasting about for a lifetime, but for Cheng Chimo, it was a lifelong agony. One cannot afford to lose their temper when in need of assistance. Let us dispense with idle chatter. I have matters to discuss, Cheng Chimo stated. Lu Jingzhou invited him into the parlor, where a maid served tea. Prepare tea with just water, only the leaves, Cheng Chimo instructed. The maid complied. Soon presenting the tea, Cheng Chimo took a sip, finding it lacking, as it had not been roasted. A thought struck him. Why not engage in the tea trade? Whatever you need, Marquis, just command me, and I shall comply, Lu Jingzhou assured him, eager to cultivate their friendship. Fufeng County could only be governed by those trusted by Li Shimin. Following the battle at Changbai Mountain, Lu Jingzhou was confident in Cheng Chimo's limitless potential. I require iron. As much as possible, Cheng Chimo declared. Lu Jingzhou pondered for a moment, then replied, my family possesses iron. We have numerous steel mills, the nearest located in Luoyang, which is tax-exempt. Excellent. I have 10 large ships in Luoyang that will come in handy. Cheng Chimo responded gratefully. Thank you. Feel free to set your own price. He added generously. Lu Jingzhou chuckled. Who needs money? That would be foolish. Cheng brother, it's merely iron. Take it as you wish. If you find any profitable ventures, do keep me in mind. Cheng Chimo nodded in acceptance, knowing he would need Lu Jingzhou's assistance in issuing currency in the future. My gratitude is immense, he expressed. Lu Jingzhou beamed, pleased with the camaraderie forged. Who dominates the tea trade? Cheng Chimo inquired further. The Chui family, he learned. Cheng Chimo then took his leave and proceeded to the Chui residence. The family servants hurried to announce his arrival, having been unsettled by him previously. Chui Wenqing emerged eagerly. What a rare guest. Please, come in. His warmth was palpable as he guided Cheng Chimo into the estate. Having monopolized 30% of the Tang's red brick market, Chui Wenqing was well aware of the substantial profits at stake. If not for the fear of Cheng Chimo's retribution, he would have already expressed his gratitude. Serve the tea. Cheng Chimo instructed, but did not partake. Do you control the tea trade? He probed. Chui Wenqing smiled and nodded, albeit exaggerating their dominance. Very well. Provide me with the sources, Cheng Chimo demanded. Chui Wenqing was taken aback. You want it outright? He stammered, knowing the tea trade yielded tens of thousands of coins annually and was not easily relinquished. He looked at Cheng Chimo, hoping for leniency. Cheng Chimo's expression turned icy. You refuse? Last time, you poisoned me. If you choose not to comply, very well, I shall take my leave, he warned, rising to depart. Chui Wenqing trembled at the thought of the massive willow tree that had once bound him. He could not allow Cheng Chimo to leave. His life depended on it. Having just restored his reputation with red bricks, he could not afford further disgrace. Brother Chum, please do not be angry. Let us discuss this, Chui Wenqing implored, his demeanor shifting to one of obsequiousness. I have no interest in discussions. It is a simple yes or no, Cheng Chimo retorted. Dealing with Chui Wenqing required a firm hand. Unlike Lu Jingzhou, who respected him yet was unafraid, Chui Wenqing was easily intimidated. Yes, Chui Wenqing finally conceded, albeit reluctantly. If I provide you with the sources, I shall no longer be the lesser master of my household, he lamented, attempting to appeal to their camaraderie. Cheng Chimo understood the need for balance. One must offer a sweet reward following a reprimand. You do not engage in the salt trade, do you? Cheng Chimo inquired. Chui Wenqing nodded, stating it was not that they lacked involvement, but rather that they could not access it. He explained that the Chui family had repeatedly attempted to invest in the salt industry, but had failed. Do you have any? Chui Wenqing asked skeptically. Indeed. I need a partner. I believe you are capable, Cheng Chimo replied, patting Chui Wenqing on the shoulder. Excitement surged within Chui Wenqing. If a single red brick could bring him fortune, what would salt do? When can I obtain the salt? He asked, only to regret his eagerness as he adjusted his attire to mask his embarrassment. In a month, come to my estate, but do not share this with others. Cheng Chimo said mysteriously. Chui Wenqing nodded earnestly. Cheng Chimo departed, with Chui Wenqing seeing him off and gifting him a packet of tea. Brother Chum, these leaves are from 100-year-old tea trees. Take them home and savor them, Chui Wenqing boasted, knowing such quality was exclusive to his family. From now on, these are mine. Do not gift my tea to anyone, Cheng Chimo replied, accepting the leaves. Chui Wenqing regretted his oversight, realizing who he was dealing with. Greedily taking more than one deserves has always been a bane. Regret is futile, and one can only respond with a bemused acceptance. Not long after departing from the Chui residence, a eunuch approached Cheng Chimo. His Majesty requests your presence in the palace, he announced with a bow. Cheng Chimo nodded and made his way to the Tai Chi Palace. Li Shimin was engrossed in reviewing memorials. I pay my respects to father, Cheng Chimo said, bowing deeply. Is the martial practice your mother is undertaking taught by you? Li Shimin inquired. He has also practiced, and the results are quite commendable, he mused, curious about where Cheng Chimo had acquired such knowledge. Cheng Chimo attributed the teachings to his master, Long Gui. Li Shimin nodded in understanding. Then his gaze fell upon the tea leaves in Cheng Chimo's hand, the aroma wafting through the air. Have you visited the Chui residence? He asked. Cheng Chimo silently lamented, wishing the emperor would simply request the tea directly. The emperor's eyes seemed to yearn to brew the tea immediately. With a straightforward gesture, Chen Qiumo placed the tea leaves on the table. This is a gift for father, he stated. Li Shimin nodded in satisfaction, appreciating the gesture, as it would not do to take from his subjects without offering something in return. How goes the matter of conscription? He continued. Chen Qiumo shook his head, explaining that he had yet to initiate the conscription process. The soldiers were merely residing in the barracks, and he had only to document their presence. I have not begun the conscription, he reiterated. Li Shimin assumed Chen Qiumo bore some psychological burden, recalling his own feelings of defeat when he was bested by Wang Shichong in Luoyang, resulting in the loss of many soldiers. It had been some time since he had visited the barracks. A general's success often comes at the cost of countless lives. You must learn to adapt. Upon your return, commence the conscription and guard Fufeng County diligently for me, Li Shimin advised. Every word from an emperor is laden with significance, a directive to safeguard Fufeng County. Did this imply he could not meddle in Li Qingqian's affairs? This was unacceptable. I shall comply with your wishes, but I have been considering engaging in commerce lately. Concerned that others may disrupt my endeavors, Chen Qiumo added, glancing at Li Shimin with hopeful eyes. Ha ha ha, you worry about such trifles? Rest assured, engage in your business pursuits. The accusation of competing with the populace for profit shall not befall you. Li Shimin laughed heartily. Earning money is commendable, he thought. But his concern lay not with Chen Qiumo's avarice, but with his ambitions. He was now convinced of Chen Qiumo's inclination towards wealth and desire, believing that even with the ascension of a new emperor, he would remain a factor to consider. It is time for you to further your education. Li Jing is your mentor. Make it a point to visit him often, Li Shimin instructed. I shall not go, Chen Qiumo firmly declined, asserting that he had no time to learn at present. He harbored resentment towards Li Jing, believing that had Li Jing arrived at the border city sooner, matters would not have unfolded as they did. Li Shimin sensed Chen Qiumo's feelings and felt helpless. Why was Li Jing so unpopular? Initially, Hou Junji had attended for a few days, only to return with complaints and accusations against Li Jing of treasonous intentions. Chen Qiumo was even more resolute, stating he would not go. I command you to go, Li Shimin insisted. Chen Qiumo was a worthy candidate for cultivation, as the old generals were growing weaker by the day, and new blood was imperative. Chen Qiumo's refusals were futile. I will go a few days later. I am currently preoccupied with making money, he replied. Go visit your mother. I am tired of this conversation, Li Shimin dismissed him, frustrated by the lack of progress over the years. Chen Qiumo proceeded to the Lijiang Hall. There, Empress Changsun, clad in a revealing dress, was practicing the art of slicing a watermelon in half. Qiumo has returned, she announced. It was Chen Qiumo's first time seeing the Empress dressed so provocatively. It seemed as though she might burst forth from her attire. Stealing a glance, he quickly averted his gaze. Empress Changsun chuckled, noticing the boy's flustered demeanor, but chose not to comment. What brings you to visit your mother? She asked. Father sent me, Chen Qiumo replied. Empress Changsun sighed inwardly. It was impossible to keep secrets from her. He was once again concocting elixirs. This was news she wished to withhold from Chen Qiumo to avoid implicating him. Oh, mother also wishes to take a breather in Fufeng County, she added, having discerned Li Shimin's intentions. With the Empress present, there were certain matters Li Shimin could not pursue. Realizing she could no longer dissuade him, she decided to make space instead. Empress Changsun believed that the elixirs would pose no threat to her. If Li Shimin discovered their ineffectiveness, he would cease taking them. Go to your fief, she instructed. Afterward, she led Chen Qiumo to the Tai Chi Palace. Upon reaching Li Shimin, Empress Changsun expressed, I wish to take a stroll. Li Shimin felt a rush of joy, as this aligned perfectly with his desires. Very well. If the Guanyin maid wishes to unwind, then go ahead, he responded, glancing at Chen Qiumo. Prepare yourself. Chen Qiumo bowed in compliance. As the entourage exited the city, only Empress Changsun and CZ accompanied them, as Li Lizzie needed to attend to Li Changqian. Empress Changsun hesitated to meet Li Changqian, for each encounter left her faint-hearted, and the sight of his pallid visage was akin to a dagger to her heart. Qiumo, come here, the Empress called from her carriage. Chen Qiumo promptly approached, aware that she had something to convey. In the future, you must guide Gao Ming more often, she instructed. Chen Qiumo assented, recognizing this as a means to assist Li Changqian in forming alliances. Although the Empress had initially wished to remain uninvolved, tears welled in her eyes as she thought of her son. What mother could bear such anguish? She would rather suffer in his place. Chen Qiumo sat in silence within the carriage. There was little to say. Assisting Li Changqian was paramount. In this world, one ought to support family over principles. Right and wrong held little weight. One must simply follow their heart. Mother, CZ, who had been napping nearby, awoke and nestled into Empress Changsun's embrace, nuzzling affectionately. The Empress tenderly stroked his head, though she did not nurse him herself, as a wet nurse was available. Chen Qiumo hastily dismounted and returned to Fufeng County. Once Empress Changsun was settled, he commenced construction efforts with a group of workers. Empress Changsun wandered about, encountering Xiazhu. Xiazhu promptly bowed. I pay my respects to your majesty. Clutching a small notebook, she reported that the salt mine had just begun operations, yet countless individuals were arriving to sell their goods. It is exhausting to keep track, she lamented. What significant endeavor is Chen Qiumo undertaking? Bring me along to observe, Empress Changsun inquired, intrigued. Having noticed multiple construction sites along the route, Your Majesty, it would be best if you refrain from visiting. The master intends to refine toxic salt, Xiaozhu cautioned. Empress Changsun frowned. The salt washing trade is not a respectable venture. One would be vilified for it. Where is he? She pressed. Xiaozhu gestured in a direction, and Empress Changsun moved toward it. There, Cheng Chumo was digging a pit, bare-chested, wielding a large pickaxe. Empress Changsun observed from a distance. Summon Cheng Chumo. She instructed a palace maid. Cheng Chumo was brought before her, wearing an uncomfortable white shirt. What brings you here, mother? He asked. Come with me, Empress Changsun replied, her expression displeased, leading him to a picturesque pond surrounded by willows. She settled onto a wooden bench. Choo-choo, it is not the Empress Dowager who speaks of you. There are numerous ways to earn money. Why must you resort to washing salt? Are you aware of the countless lives that could be lost due to this? Your actions have deeply disappointed the Empress Dowager. Empress Zhongsun laments your lack of potential. Treating people as mere tools is unacceptable. To lose one's humanity is to be no better than a beast. If it were anyone else, Empress Zhongsun would not even bother to inquire. But Choo-choo is different. She harbors great expectations for you, hoping that one day you will become a pillar of the Tang dynasty, a wise and capable aide, which is why she has taken the time to cultivate you. Cheng Chumo first offers an apology, then begins to explain. Mother, I have a method that ensures the workers do not come into contact with the toxic water. If they don't come into contact, there will be no issues. Empress Zhongsun is skeptical, yet Cheng Chumo speaks with such conviction that she begins to waver. Demonstrate it for me. She concedes, her tone softening. Cheng Chumo complies. Procuring a large iron pot to melt the salt mine and creating a filter composed of layers, coarse stones, charcoal, and repeating this thrice. Once the salt mine dissolves, he uses half a gourd as a ladle to pour the salt water into the filter. Gradually, the salt water trickles out from the bottom of the filter. Mother, observe. Once this water evaporates, salt will appear. After explaining, Cheng Chumo resumes washing the salt, placing the filtered salt water into the pot to boil. When the water evaporates, a layer of white crystals forms at the bottom of the pot, resembling flour. This is salt. He scoops a handful to show Empress Zhongsun, who gazes in astonishment at the pure white salt. Is it truly free of poison? She questions. Cheng Chumo dips his finger into it, intending to taste. But Empress Zhongsun swiftly grasps his hand. Do not. I believe in you, she reassures. Retracting her hand discreetly, she praises. This method of yours is commendable. With a slight wrinkle of her nose, Empress Zhongsun instructs, go change your clothes. Cheng Chumo hurries back to change and returns. Certain matters require her support. With Empress Zhongsun's backing, the ministers will think twice before challenging him, particularly the likes of Wei Zhong, who are known for their fault-finding. They do not merely criticize Li Shimin but also other officials, earning them the moniker the Ghost of Chang'an. Mother, do you think this business is feasible? Cheng Chumo inquires, diligently assisting Empress Zhongsun with fruit. She casts him a disapproving glance. Why are you so avaricious, lacking ambition? She chuckles, aware of Li Shimin's governing tactics. Without leverage against him, she feels uneasy. The aftermath of the Xuanwu Gate incident leaves her suspicious of everyone. It is possible, but how do you intend to proceed? Empress Zhongsun presses. I will find a vendor and sign an agency agreement. I will collect payments in Fufeng County, Cheng Chumo exclaims excitedly. Empress Zhongsun shakes her head disapprovingly. Such an approach is flawed. The business world, like the political arena, demands strategy and competition. Your 100 praises cannot match another's single commendation. Heed my counsel and follow my lead. She begins to outline her strategy. First, contact several prominent families to showcase the product, while withholding it from others. The ones who see it will certainly collaborate, while those who do not will deride Cheng Chumo's salt. Once they have disparaged him nationwide, he can then sell salt across the country. Actions speak louder than words. As long as the salt is of good quality, the criticisms will cease, serving as free advertising. Cheng Chumo gazes at Empress Zhongsun with admiration, giving her a thumbs up. Mother, you are truly remarkable. I suspect without you, father would not have ascended the throne. Cheng Chumo partially acknowledges the truth. Li Shimin's rise to power is indeed attributable to Empress Zhongsun's influence. Behind every successful man stands a woman, and Empress Zhongsun is that woman. This is why Li Shimin relies on her so heavily, consulting her on various matters. Empress Zhongsun playfully taps Cheng Chumo on the forehead. Is there anything else you wish to discuss? She seems to see through him. Mother, since you have some free time, would you consider assisting me in managing the business? In time, you shall be the wealthiest woman in the Tang dynasty, Cheng Chumo tentatively suggests, having truly grasped Empress Zhongsun's wisdom, understanding that business is about sharing profits. Better to share with her than with others. Empress Zhongsun is intrigued, recognizing Cheng Chumo's cleverness and adaptability. Is that acceptable? She inquires, though her words suggest reluctance. Cheng Chumo feels a surge of joy. This indicates a willingness to negotiate. He needs to train an army, including special forces, leaving him little time for business. If Empress Zhongsun takes the reins, everything will become uncomplicated, an entirely free labor force. With her intelligence and skill, such endeavors would be child's play. Mother, you can wear a mask, and no one will recognize you, Cheng Chumo proposes. Empress Zhongsun is swayed by his arguments. She genuinely wishes to embark on something meaningful. Very well, design a simple mask for me, she instructs. Cheng Chumo's face brightens. Haha, Mother as the mastermind. Let us see who dares to challenge us. He exclaims with laughter. Empress Zhongsun feels exasperated. Is it necessary to articulate such matters? She shakes her head, sensing something peculiar, as if she has been unwittingly led astray. Who truly possesses the upper hand here? A month later, as snowflakes drift gently from the sky, the inaugural investment conference in Fufeng County commences. Cui Wenqing and Lu Jingzhua arrive one after the other. Both exchange pleasantries, yet their hearts are not in harmony, each harboring their own designs. Lu Jingzhua seeks to establish comprehensive cooperation with Cheng Chimo, ideally in an exclusive capacity, while Cui Wenqing aims to monopolize the venture. Determined to acquire all of Cheng Chimo's goods without affording anyone else an opportunity. Lu Xiong is indeed a man of great talent. This time, you must surely achieve your desires, Cui Wenqing remarked, silently adding that should you succeed, he would be the fool. Cui Xiong possesses vast experience. I, a mere junior, cannot compare. You shall undoubtedly reap bountiful rewards this time, Lu Jingzhua replied, inwardly lamenting why Cheng Chimo had not apprehended Cui once more, contemplating his audacity to contend. The duo arrived at the city lord's mansion, where they were greeted by Xia Zhu. Upon seeing her, Cui Wenqing laughed heartily. Oh, what a pleasant surprise to find a familiar face. He then presented an exquisite piece of ancient jade, expressing his hope that manager Xia would graciously accept it. Putting past grievances aside, Cui Wenqing felt a pang of anxiety, realizing that Xia Zhu had ingratiated herself quite well with Cheng Chimo, and he could not afford to have her report on him. After all, their family had once treated her rather harshly. Xia Zhu smiled and accepted the jade, knowing well her place in the hierarchy. Although she held the title of a 7th-rank official, it was merely a courtesy from others. In the event of any serious transgressions, she would not dare to contend with the aristocracy. Bending slightly, she expressed her gratitude. Thank you, young Master Cui. This signifies a reconciliation. Half an hour later, the grand hall was filled with attendees from noble families and large landowners. The landowners possessed strength that rivaled the aristocracy, while the latter sought fame and fortune. The former prioritized land. During times of war, landowners exerted the most effort and made the loudest noise. The aristocracy looked down upon them, viewing them as mere country bumpkins, while the landowners scorned the aristocracy as hypocritical. Their interactions were rare. Cheng Chimo had previously ousted the backer of Helan Engshi, who belonged to the landowner faction. Li Chengqian's supporters were also landowners, which is why the aristocracy backed Li Tai. The chairman of the executive board has arrived. A guard announced from outside. Empress Changsun entered, adorned in a tight-fitting hanfu and a mask. All present stood in unison. Though they owed no deference to the masked empress, they dared not disrespect Cheng Chimo, whose reputation from the victory at the Changbai mountain battle still loomed large. Empress Changsun took her seat at the head of the table. Please be seated. Her melodious voice enveloped the room like a gentle spring breeze. As everyone settled, curiosity arose. How could a woman hold such a position? Who was she? With a wave of her hand, the attendants presented numerous contracts, clearly detailing terms for salt, tea, red bricks, steel, and paper. As long as the payment is adequate, technology can be transferred. Cui Wenqing's excitement grew as he gazed at the salt. Rising, he clasped his fists together. I wish to acquire the salt production technology. May I inquire what conditions the chairman of the executive board has? He inquired eagerly. The chairman's intent was clear. She was the one in charge. Others turned their attention to Empress Changsun, who appeared quite pleased by this address. You cannot afford it. Simply state how much you desire, she replied with a nonchalant tone. Cui Wenqing's expression darkened. Was there truly something he could not afford? Impossible. Just as he was about to protest, Cheng Chimo entered the hall, having just settled the sorcerers. Standing behind Empress Changsun with his hands clasped, Cui Wenqing promptly subdued himself. Our Cui family requires 1,000 shur. 1 handful of salt equated to 1 dough of rice. 1,000 shur of salt. How much rice would that be? Empress Changsuen's heart raced at the thought. She considered herself well-versed in wealth, yet such a staggering sum was daunting. The empress remained unfazed. However, the goods will be ready for collection in 3 days. Next, gasps filled the room. Was there truly that much salt in Fufeng County? Lu Jingzhua stood and clasped his fists. Our Lu family also requires 1,000 shur. He sought to ascertain the salt reserves in Fufeng County, but felt disheartened. The goods will be ready for collection in 3 days. Next, Empress Changsun declared, finding amusement in their feeble attempts to impress her. She relished the feeling of power. One by one, others rose to request goods. After a brief calculation, Empress Changsun noted that over 10 families had secured orders, while the rest would temporarily be turned away to spread the word. I apologize, everyone, but today's order meeting has concluded, she announced. Those without orders dared not express their anger, fearing Cheng Chimo's wrath. Could we perhaps see the goods for our future orders? One individual ventured. No, Empress Changsun replied curtly. The man, his expression darkening, cupped his fist toward Cheng Chimo before departing in a huff. Cheng Chimo felt a surge of satisfaction. They were merely pawns, and he encouraged them to undermine Fufeng County's products in secret. They would not dare malign Cheng Chimo directly, but felt no guilt in disparaging Fufeng County's goods. Those who had secured orders walked away with pride, standing tall, while those without felt increasingly slighted. Chapter 94. boiling Li Chengqian in warm water as the gathering dispersed. Cui Wenqing approached Cheng Chimo privately. Brother Cheng, here are the land deeds, he said, presenting a stack of documents, all pertaining to tea-producing regions. Cheng Chimo casually picked a few. I shall not require these. Henceforth, let us collaborate on the tea trade. I shall provide the technology, and you shall supply the funds. On the condition that the tea must be shipped from Fufeng County, Cheng Chimo declared. He resolved to partner with Cui Wenqing, believing this would ensure profitability in the tea business. Venturing into the tea trade alone could lead to failure. Cui Wenqing appeared incredulous. Has Brother Cheng truly changed his mind? Is this genuine? Cheng Chimo shot him a piercing glance. Cui Wenqing's spirit soared. Cheng Chimo's words were sincere. Rest assured, we shall proceed as you suggest, he affirmed. As everyone departed, Cheng Chimo returned to the government office, feeling conflicted. He pondered where to recruit special forces. Should he venture to the prison? He was reluctant to bring misfortune upon a single location. In the rear garden, Empress Changsun was engaged in conversation with Li Huan and Xia Zhu. She seemed to be in good spirits. Li Huan appeared timid, akin to a quail, while Xia Zhu maintained a cheerful demeanor, conversing animatedly with Empress Changsun. Xia Zhu, please bring forth some fruit wine, Empress Changsun instructed. The Tubo learned winemaking techniques from the Tang, while the Western wines were inspired by Tubo. Coleshouse verse, grapes of fine wine in luminous cups, as the pipa urges me to drink. Xia Zhu rose to fetch the wine, noticing Cheng Chimo and bowing respectfully. Master, have you finished your business? Cheng Chimo nodded and approached the Empress. I am preparing to reconstruct the special forces, he informed her. Empress Changsun regarded him, discerning his thoughts. Her penetrating gaze made Cheng Chimo feel somewhat uneasy. She smiled gently. There are many skilled individuals in the populace. You need not confine yourself to the prison. If you are concerned about spies, you can conduct background checks for 3 generations. It is quite simple. Cheng Chimo nodded, wishing merely to hear Empress Changsun's perspective, as he already had candidates in mind. Xia Zhu returned with the wine. Chimo, please attend to your affairs, Empress Changsun encouraged, sending him away to enjoy drinks with Li Huan and Xia Zhu. The garden was left with only the 3 of them. Cheng Chimo concealed himself in the shadows, eavesdropping. What could the 3 women be discussing? After listening for a while, he left, his expression darkened. In essence, the 3 women and a jug of wine had spent the night lamenting their husbands. Empress Changsun cast a glance toward Cheng Chimo's departing figure, secretly chastising him for his shamelessness in eavesdropping. Cheng Chimo posted notices throughout the entire Fufeng County, seeking to recruit special forces. The response was not particularly promising. Nonetheless, he resolved to visit the death row to find candidates, believing that those recruited from there would be more reliable. Cheng began his journey across various locales. It was common knowledge that Emperor Li Shimin had issued a decree allowing Cheng to enlist soldiers, and although the specific locations for recruitment were not disclosed, the localities cooperated willingly. In a span of half a month, he managed to gather 300 individuals, who assembled at the training ground. Cheng pointed to the last special forces recruit beside him and declared, he shall be your captain. At your command. The new recruits responded in unison. I am your sovereign. Cheng continued. The swift transition from captain to sovereign was evident to all. It was clear to the bystanders what his intentions were. We salute you, your majesty. The recruits knelt, addressing him. Training commenced, employing familiar methods with slight modifications. The 3-to-3 tactic underwent some changes. Wielding the long tang sword required significant effort and awkward postures. The issue was resolved when 3 individuals stood back to back to draw each other's swords from their waists. After repeated practice, their movements became exceptionally graceful. Once the special forces training was entrusted to the captain, Cheng returned to the military camp. The recruitment of new soldiers concluded with a total of 25,000. However, the decree only permitted 1,000 to be enlisted, necessitating the involvement of reserves, 10,000 regular troops, and 15,000 in reserve, all receiving equal treatment. Cheng applied the same 3-to-3 training method for the new army. With soldiers secured, the matter of provisions emerged as a challenge. Sustenance must be prioritized, for it is the bedrock of combat effectiveness. Thus, Cheng resolved to raise pigs, planning to establish a large-scale pig farming operation in Fufeng County to supply meat for the entire region. He chose the location with great care, ensuring it was near Fengxiang County so that the odor of pig manure would not disturb Fufeng. Everything was progressing smoothly. The schemes of Empress Changsun began to bear fruit. Voices of discontent arose from various quarters, declaring that the salt from Fufeng County was counterfeit, poisonous, and resembling excrement in color. Various slanders swept across the Tang dynasty. Fufeng County remained unresponsive, seemingly acquiescing to the accusations. Cui Wenqing, in a state of panic, rushed to Cheng. Brother Cheng, this cannot continue. If the insults persist, our business will collapse, he exclaimed. His urgency was understandable. He had invested a considerable sum in the goods, and Cheng's refusal to permit sales left him feeling duped. In contrast to Cui, Lu Jingzhou remained remarkably composed, for he still had salt on hand and faced no losses. Cheng shot an irritated glance at Cui Wenqing. Why the haste? To ignite a fire, one must endure the flames of criticism. You are still too young to comprehend such matters, Cheng asserted confidently. Cui was baffled. He could not fathom conducting business in such a manner. Others would fear even a hint of criticism, believing that harmony fosters wealth. Yet Cheng seemed almost eager for the entire populace of the Tang dynasty to denounce him. The reputation of the Cheng family's fool was indeed well-deserved. The Empress requests your presence. A personal attendant of Empress Changsun approached. Cheng followed the attendant, leaving Cui Wencheng in a state of confusion. In the back garden, Empress Changsun was enjoying tea, far superior to what was served in the palace. I pay my respects to Mother. Cheng bowed, and the Empress nodded. The time has come. Let us commence the sale of salt across the regions, at a slightly reduced price from the original. Cheng acknowledged her directive. The attendant promptly set about the task, requiring no input from Cheng. The back garden was now left with just the two of them. Empress Changsun produced a memorial. Take a look, she said. Cheng accepted it. Li Tai was responsible for receiving the Tibetan prince, who was the heir apparent. According to protocol, it should have been Li Chengqian, but due to Li Chengqian's mobility issues, the ministers bypassed him, allowing Li Tai to take over the reception. Their actions are excessive. Where's their wisdom? Empress Changsun lamented. Such grievances were once reserved for Emperor Li Shimin alone, but now only Cheng could hear them. The Empress harbored resentment. If a cripple could not ascend the throne, why not simply allow Gao Ming to become a carefree prince? Why the gradual encroachment and suppression? Gao Ming had suffered enough. What more did they want? Does Father Emperor not care? Cheng inquired. Empress Changsun shot him a glare. His words seemed to incite discord. After a moment, Cheng maintained his composure. The Empress internally chuckled, realizing that Cheng was not astute enough to harbor ulterior motives. Your father is also a prisoner of circumstance, she said, her words betraying her true thoughts. She knew well that without Emperor Li Shimin's tacit approval, none would dare act. To usurp Gao Ming's position as crown prince required a justifiable pretext. Legitimacy was paramount. This was also the reason for the gradual undermining of Li Chengqian's position. Do not worry, mother. I have my methods, Cheng assured her. What methods do you possess? Empress Changsun asked, skeptical. If she herself had no solutions, how could he? Suddenly, a grave expression crossed her face. Do not act recklessly. The Tibetan prince is not like those envoys. You cannot capture him, she warned seriously. Cheng retorted that he would not capture him, but could certainly give him a beating. Rest assured, mother, I shall simply teach him a lesson. Chapter 95. The commencement of salt sales and Empress Changsun's health 3 months hence. It should arrive. Please be cautious. Empress Changsun instructed, intending to subtly alert the ministers not to overstep, as Li Chengqian's mother was still alive. Cheng acquiesced. Ahem, ahem, ahem. Empress Changsun coughed violently, tightening her garments, her complexion turning an unnatural shade of red. Even from afar in Fufeng County, she could not escape worry. She now felt physically and mentally drained. The government office is too cold. Mother, why not stay at my estate? It is much warmer, Cheng suggested, referring to his own estate, which he had designed himself. Let us take a look. Empress Changsun was inclined to walk around and would decide whether to stay based on the temperature. Upon arriving at the estate, along the way, Cui Wenqing caught sight of Empress Changsun's silhouette from a distance. His heart quivered, as if he had guessed something. His mouth agape in disbelief, he exclaimed. The executive chairman is actually. Just then, Xia Zhu, passing by, overheard him. This cannot be allowed. Such matters must not be disclosed. Xia instructed a servant to inform the special forces that someone had uncovered the master's secret and hurried after Cheng. At the estate, Empress Changsun gazed in awe. This is simply magnificent. She marveled at the pond and the artificial hill, where steam rose from the water's surface. Is there a hot spring here? She wondered aloud. Assuming the presence of steam indicated a hot spring. There is none, Cheng replied. No hot springs, but there is heating. Warm water pipes run beneath the surface. Upon hearing this, Empress Changsun shot Cheng an indignant glare. You only reveal such a splendid place to me now? You truly do not hold me in your heart. She huffed, continuing deeper into the estate. The simplicity of the design was striking. Before her stood a villa, and Empress Changsun gazed in astonishment. Such architectural style was non-existent in the Tang dynasty. Upon opening the door, warmth enveloped her, and she felt an immediate fondness for the place. Winter is the most arduous season for Empress Changsun. Her health is frail, and her sensitive nose causes her to cough violently at the slightest whiff of smoke. Upon entering the villa, every corner resonates with her preferred aesthetic. She finds herself in a chamber adorned with a spacious bed for 3, a bronze mirror, and walls lined with cabinets. The bedding, crafted from delicate white porcelain, is made of the renowned cotton from Tubo. Changsun caresses it, noting its softness. And upon sitting on the bed, she feels an overwhelming desire to remain there. Her expression contorts in contemplation. How might she secure this estate? As her gaze subtly shifts, Cheng Chumo observes Changsun in a light he has never seen before, finding amusement in her plight, but choosing to remain silent. Chumo, for managing this estate. Mother surely deserves a stipend. What sum do you deem appropriate? She inquires, awaiting him to willingly bestow the villa upon her. Cheng Chumo, however, remains oblivious to her hints. We shall divide the profits equally, he replies. Changsun's countenance darkens as she shoots him an exasperated glance. This estate is indeed splendid. It would serve mother well for recuperation. She decides to give him another chance. Cheng Chumo feigns ignorance. Humph, henceforth, this place will belong to me. Do you hear? She asserts, her tone sharp. I hear you. Cheng Chumo replies with unwavering clarity. Changsun realizes she has been outmaneuvered. He was merely waiting for her to vocalize her desires, leaving her speechless. She reassures herself that Cheng Chumo is not a stranger, and thus, she permits herself to be content despite her slight discomfort. Her maid stifles a laugh nearby as Chang Sun leans against the bed, feeling lightheaded. The maid promptly rushes to offer her a massage. You may return to your duties. Chang Sun wearily instructs. Cheng Chumo, concerned, notes her worsening condition. In a brief span, she has exhibited symptoms twice. He opens a cabinet for her, displaying ginseng and lingji. Mother, should you feel unwell, notify me immediately, he commands the maid. Understood, she replies. Cheng Chumo departs the estate. As he exits, Xiaozhu approaches him to relay a report. Cheng Chumo then proceeds to the military camp, where Cui Wencheng is bound to a tree, watched intently by 300 Special Forces soldiers, their demeanor fierce. Cui Wencheng, on the verge of tears, realizes that possessing too much knowledge can be perilous. As he spots Cheng Chumo, he begins to plead for leniency, hoping to evade punishment. Brother Cheng, I witnessed nothing, he insists, but his words ring hollow. Should I silence you? Cheng Chumo threatens, showing no concern for Cui Wencheng's awareness of the situation. After all, the Empress's involvement in Fufeng County was sanctioned by Li Shimin, intended to clear space for alchemical endeavors within the palace. I swear, I will keep silent. Cui Wencheng replies with a wry smile. Cheng Chumo unties him. Follow me, he orders, leading Cui Wencheng to a secluded area. Salt will soon be available for sale. The quantity you procure will depend on your capabilities. I will supply you without limitation, Cheng Chumo states. He recognizes the necessity for competition among agents to foster his own position as a mediator. Cui Wencheng's excitement is palpable. He is adept in this field and knows that to succeed, he must decisively eliminate his rivals. The Empress's identity must remain concealed. This venture is half hers, and any revelation could have dire consequences. Cheng Chumo fabricates a narrative, asserting that Li Shimin is uninvolved and that the Empress seeks only a villa. Rest assured, Brother Cheng. I understand the gravity of this matter, Cui Wencheng responds earnestly. The Empress cannot compete with the populace. This is a significant issue that could tarnish her reputation. The plan is set into motion. Cui Wencheng swiftly dispatches urgent notifications across regions to commence salt distribution. Pristine white salt floods the market, its quality and affordability quickly establishing dominance. Other agents, unwilling to be outdone, frantically push their goods to capture market share. The initial criticisms cease abruptly. The 5 major families, now in a panic, scramble as their stocks of yellow salt lose their buyers. Those who purchase salt are typically affluent, and losing such clientele is no trivial matter. They hastily decide to send a young master to Fufeng County to negotiate with Cheng Chumo, determined to acquire salt and avoid falling behind. As they lower their prices, Cui Wencheng is quick to undercut them further. His monopolistic tactics prove effective, aided by Lu Jingzhua, who ensures the other 5 families are left gasping for air. Within the Fufeng County government office, Cui Wencheng wears a triumphant expression, while Lu Jingzhua admires his acumen. Brother Cui, you are truly talented, he remarks sincerely, free of flattery. Cui Wencheng accepts the praise with composure. Where is Cheng Chumo? He inquires. The two have not encountered Cheng Chumo for quite some time, which seems unusual. Inquiring with the servants, they learn that Cheng Chumo is not in Fufeng County. He has taken the special forces to practice decapitation tactics. Cui Wencheng's excitement surges. He is well versed in such operations, having been the first to experience decapitation himself. Witnessing others face misfortune brings him delight. Lu, let us go observe, he suggests. Lu Jingzhua agrees, eager to witness the event. As they step out, Cheng Chumo returns. The group they encountered was merely the advance party, not Songzhan's main force. Brother Cheng, were you not to practice decapitation? Cui Wencheng questions, disappointment creeping in as he misses the excitement. Cheng Chumo does not elaborate. The movements of the special forces are confidential. How fares the trade? Cui Wencheng, now invigorated, discusses the fervor of the salt market. After facing criticism, sales have skyrocketed, and curiosity drives all to witness the peculiar salt, which resembles dung in color. Upon seeing it, they are astounded. Is this truly salt? It is whiter than pearls. After sampling, the necessity to purchase becomes apparent. Deceit crumbles under scrutiny. The sales surge, and within half a year, a market monopoly in the Tang dynasty seems inevitable. Cui Wencheng exclaims. His enthusiasm palpable. Cheng Chumo nods in agreement. This is merely the beginning. We will crush them without sparing their pride, he asserts. Will you supply this salt to the other families? Lu Jingzhua questions, his concern evident. If Cheng Chumo does, the monopoly would cease to exist. Cheng Chumo has no intention of supplying them now. Once paper currency is issued, he will compel those families to trade salt using Fufeng County as currency. They must bring paper currency to purchase salt. Otherwise, they are welcome to continue being bullied by the Cui and Lu families. As long as the paper currency circulates among the families, it serves as the finest advertisement. This is Cheng Chumo's ultimate goal. He has little interest in mere money. Nothing profits as swiftly as war. To plunder a nation is to reap immense rewards. I will grant you ample time to establish a true monopoly in the market. Cheng Chumo declares. Cui Wencheng and Lu Jingzhua exchanged a glance and nodded. Cui Wencheng was well aware of the internal situation. Lu Jingzhua, however, was oblivious. He sensed that Cheng Chumo harbored considerable ambition and grand aspirations, But as of now, there were no signs of this. Let us proceed. The second order is about to commence. We shall observe, Cheng Chimo declared. The trio made their way to the hall where Empress Changsun presided over the order meeting. 5 particularly conspicuous young men caught their attention. Cui Wenqing's expression darkened, while Lu Jingzua's eyes blazed with fury. There was animosity. Upon Cheng Chimo's arrival, everyone rose and clasped their fists in greeting. Empress Changsun, feeling compelled, also stood to return the gesture, a strange sensation washing over her. Cui Wenqing was startled, his heart racing. The Empress was bowing to Cheng Chimo? Unbelievable. Cheng Chimo stood behind the Empress. Shall we commence, Chairman? He spoke casually. Empress Changsun felt a pang of loss in her pride. Let us begin, she announced. The young lords of the 5 prominent families began to report their numbers. Regrettably, our business does not include the 5 great families. Please excuse us, Empress Changsun stated. Upon uttering this, her spirits lifted significantly. Achieving what was impossible in the court felt gratifying. The 5 men's faces paled, and just as they were about to erupt, Cheng Chimo waved his hand. A group of special forces stormed in, seizing the young men by their hair and dragging them away, showing no mercy. They were taken outside for a severe beating. Cui Wenqing's expression was one of exhilaration, internally exclaiming, Cheng Chimo is remarkable. He truly embodies the essence of Chang'an's top strategist. Cheng Chimo remained unfazed, as if the 5 represented not the 5 great families, but mere inconsequential figures. With the precedent set, everyone settled down. Cheng Chimo's nature was too formidable, leaving no face for the 5 great families. In a bid to ensure that all commoners could afford clothing, Fufeng County decided to drastically lower the price of fabric from 1 coin per foot to 1 coin for 5 feet. Does anyone have any objections? Empress Changsun inquired with a smile. Everyone began to weigh the pros and cons. What price can we expect from the chairman? One individual asked. 1 coin for 7 feet. Empress Changsun replied. No one understood Cheng Chimo's intentions. To reduce the price of fabric by 5-fold? What was he up to? Cheng Chimo's objective was straightforward, to elevate the value of copper coins, for he possessed an abundance of them. Without copper coins, how could one print currency? The printed money must be tied to copper coins. Without them, others would hesitate to use Fufeng County's paper currency. This aligned with Empress Changsun's desires. Understanding the fabric production capacity, she had no interest in profiting from it. Her aim was to ensure that the common people had clothing. I shall order 50,000 rolls. Cui Wenqing boldly declared, his tone exceedingly respectful, nearly groveling. He had his own calculations. He knew that Empress Changsun was concerned for the nation and its people. And this move was undoubtedly her intention. Waiting to show loyalty would be a missed opportunity. The noble families did not deign to show fealty to Li Shimin, as they hardly regarded him with fear, but Empress Changsun was different. Thanks to her, Li Shimin had spared many lives, which led to their great admiration for her. He may not be the eternal emperor, but she would undoubtedly be the everlasting empress. After Cui Wenqing spoke, Lu Jingzua thought to himself that he had fallen behind. He promptly followed suit with an order of 100,000. Cui Wenqing, incensed, pointed at Lu Jingzua and berated him. You rogue, where's your honor? I shall order 15 rolls. Cui Wenqing insisted, resolute not to be outdone by Lu Jingzua. He could not allow Cheng Chimo to favor Lu Jingzua. Brother Cui, your words are misguided. We must rely on our capabilities. My Lu family shall order 300,000 rolls, Lu Jingzua replied with a smile. In business, there are no familial ties. Fabric at such a low price would be foolish not to seize, and the opportunity to sell well indirectly was too good to pass up. If one did not engage in such advantageous trade, they might as well abandon business altogether. 300,000 was already the limit for the Fanyang Lu family. Given their market share, Cui Wenqing wore a cold smile. He had never lost in business. Very well, do not blame me for my lack of mercy. I shall order 1 million rolls, Cui Wenqing declared, brimming with pride. Dismissing the mere cost of fabric, he could always purchase salt to accompany it. Lu Jingzua smiled wryly. In this arena, he was no match for Cui Wenqing and sat down, yielding. Cui Wenqing reveled in his triumph. Empress Changsun found this amusing. It was truly entertaining. Other families, unwilling to be left behind, began placing orders as well, with a minimum of 10,000, feeling embarrassed to propose anything less. The boldness of Cui Wenqing and Lu Jingzua had set a high precedent. Copper coins began to flood into Fufeng County. The 5 great families collectively sought to impeach Cheng Chimo, but to no avail. Li Shimin was preoccupied and, besides, with guanines made in Fufeng County, no mishap was likely. Do not be alarmed. Commercial competition should not be brought to the court, Li Shimin remarked. Kong Ingda acquiesced, bowing in agreement. Your Majesty is correct. Merchants do not deserve to be discussed in the court's affairs. The 5 great families are regressing. Kong Ingda, who held a deep concern for social hierarchy, as the Minister of Rights, felt compelled to criticize the 5 great families. What were they attempting? To elevate the social status of merchants? A mere fantasy. As long as Kong Ingda lived, no one would dare to challenge that. The officials of the 5 families were left humiliated, unable to raise their heads in the court. They felt compelled to address the matter, yet speaking out was equally daunting. The noble families, though prestigious, required funds. Without money, they were nothing. How would they respond when asked about their origins? 8 generations of beggars? A millennium of begging? They would be ridiculed mercilessly. Unable to resolve matters in the court, they had to devise alternative strategies. Being forceful was out of the question. They feared that Cheng Chumo would execute them. They could only approach matters with subtlety. The five great families once again dispatched representatives to Fufeng County. Chapter 97. Issuing currency equates to rebellion. The patriarchs of the five great clans arrived at Fufeng County, accompanied by over 100 individuals and more than 10 carriages laden with valuables. These five men were the esteemed elders of their families, second only to the family heads, possessing the authority to impeach them. Upon entering Fufeng County, the five men dismounted their carriages and surveyed the bustling streets. The elder from the Li family wore a grave expression. Cheng Chumo was astute and cunning, taking advantage of the tiger's slumber to seize complete control of Fufeng County. The other four shared his grim countenance. They were astounded that someone dared to choke the throat of Chang'an. The most alarming aspect was Cheng Chumo's military strength and his status as a renowned general. A celebrated general stands apart from ordinary commanders. Only those who have weathered the trials of blood and battle are worthy of such a title. A famed general stationed in Fufeng County was akin to a sword hanging over Chang'an. This could indirectly influence the imperial succession struggle. If Cheng Chumo chose a side, that individual would possess an undeniable advantage. They were backing Li Tai, yet everyone was aware of Cheng Chumo's friendship with Li Changqian. Should military conflict arise, the consequences would be dire. They had believed that with Li Changqian incapacitated, victory was assured, only to find Cheng Chumo emerging unexpectedly. Empress Changsun is in Fufeng County, remarked the elder of the Wang family. Let us not be disheartened. Whatever Cheng Chumo does is beyond our control. Do not forget our purpose. The struggle for the throne is not something a mere Cheng Chumo can influence, replied the elder of the Zheng family. This was their source of confidence. They held sway over all officials of the Tang dynasty, with entanglements in every level of authority, no matter how high. Fang Xianling and Cheng Chumo are no exceptions. They both married women from prominent families, which is not merely for companionship, but rather for the purpose of forging alliances. The five men fell silent. This time, the Lu family from Fanyang and the Chui family from Qinghe seized the initiative. If this matter remains unresolved, Cheng's assets may truly face annexation. Salt and cloth are the lifeblood of the economy. Upon arriving at the county office in Fufeng, Empress Changsun did not make an appearance. Yet these old fellows had encountered her before. Cheng Chumo, who was in training, was summoned. What brings you five esteemed families to Fufeng County? He inquired. This time, we five great families concede. If the Marquis has any conditions, we are ready to negotiate, replied the elder of the Zheng family. They were disinclined to engage in intrigue with Cheng Chumo, who was unworthy of such games. Get lost, see yourselves out. Cheng Chumo barked angrily. Special forces entered to escort them out. The five elders were dumbfounded as they were expelled from the office. Is this how we are treated? After their departure, Cheng Chumo spat disdainfully. Bah, so much for being noble families. They crumbled so quickly, and the paper currency hasn't even been printed yet. The five great families misstepped at every turn. In order to force their hand regarding the issuance of paper currency in Fufeng County, Cheng Chumo found himself at a loss for words in the absence of such currency. Despite his harsh demeanor, should Cheng Chumo extend an olive branch, they would likely return. Ultimately, it is all about interests. Cheng Chumo arrived at his estate, where Empress Changsun was in the villa, enjoying warmth and tranquility. Mother, I plan to issue paper currency. What do you think? He said. Empress Changsun, dressed in a traditional attire, was engrossed in a game of chess. Cheng Chumo had crafted the game himself. And after a single session, she had developed a fondness for chess, which, despite its seemingly simple appearance, is filled with complexity. Let us play a game together, she suggested. Arranging the pieces, Cheng Chumo sat down to accompany her. Empress Changsun took the red pieces and made the first move. The first step is the immortal's guidance. And Cheng Chumo responded with a direct cannon attack. The horse moves in a square, the elephant moves diagonally, the cannon strikes from afar. These are the rules. Without rules, there is no chessboard. Do you understand what it signifies for Fufeng County to issue currency? Empress Changsun gazed at Cheng Chumo. It signifies rebellion. Do you comprehend the consequences? She remarked casually, wishing to steer him back to reason. Currency symbolizes a state's authority, and she could not allow him to err. Cheng Chumo, however, was distracted while playing. Empress Changsun was correct. The issuance of currency in Fufeng County equated to insurrection. Mother, he hesitated, unsure of what to say. He was reluctant to abandon this endeavor. All was in place, save for the favorable winds. Missing this opportunity would mean no second chance. Mother, you realize you are merely aiming for a monopoly, but others will not perceive it that way, nor will your father. Empress Changsun gently advised. All right, let's not play anymore today. Why don't you prepare some sweet and sour pork for me? It has been ages since I last had it, she said with a smile, reluctant to press him too hard, understanding his stubborn nature required time. Cheng Chumo, however, was not in the mood for cooking, merely gazing at her in silence. Empress Changsun, exasperated, rose to prepare the meal herself. This was one of her hobbies. She enjoyed cooking a dish every now and then, rarely eating it herself, as Cheng Chumo always took care of finishing it. Half an hour later, a palace maid brought in a plate of sweet and sour fish. It could not be called sweet and sour carp, for carp sounds like li, a taboo in the royal household. Cheng Chumo ate absent-mindedly. Empress Changsun shot him a disapproving glance, scolding him for wasting food. Eat hastily then. Mother, I still wish to print. This is an experiment, a step forward. I do not wish to give up, Cheng Chumo insisted. Empress Changsun sighed. A step forward? What progress is this? It is a regression. Copper holds value. Paper currency holds no value. It is merely credit currency. Those truly in power care not for credit. They can devalue it at will, under the pretense of stimulating the market, when in reality, it aims to keep the populace occupied. Year after year of devaluation leads to rising prices. To survive, one must constantly earn paper currency, a mere piece of paper manipulating everyone. Suddenly, Empress Changsun's face turned pale, and she stumbled backward. Cheng Chumo rushed to support her. Mother, what is wrong? He asked urgently. Help me to my room to rest, she replied weakly. With the palace maids absent, only Chang could assist her. He lifted Empress Changsun into his arms. You cannot even stand yet you wish to be supported, he thought. He carried her into the room and laid her down on the bed. I will write to Physician Sun immediately and have him return, Cheng Chumo declared. Empress Changsun slowly closed her eyes, lacking the strength to speak. After finishing the letter, she opened her eyes to see Cheng Chumo's anxious expression, warming her heart. Though she was an empress, few genuinely worried for her, and he was one of them. Chumo, I have thought of a solution, Empress Changsun said. Her concern for him evident. Mother, please rest. Do not overthink it, he urged. We will discuss currency later. Your health is paramount. Empress Changsun forced a smile. Mother, it is nothing. A bit of rest will suffice. You cannot issue currency, but you can issue promissory notes. Empress Changsun explained. Promissory notes are akin to large denomination currency, not circulating among the populace, thus escaping the definition of currency. This was a loophole. The Tang dynasty maintained a relatively lenient control over currency, since minting copper coins was often a losing venture. No one would be foolish enough to incur losses by minting money. Trade among the aristocracy often utilized promissory notes, beyond the reach of legal interference. Listen to your mother. Do not speak further, Cheng Chumo insisted. Your Highness, Xia Zhu is waiting for you outside, a palace maid announced. Cheng Chumo rose to leave. Your Highness. Another maid wept as she looked at Empress Changsun, wishing she could take her illness upon herself. Cheng Chumo stepped out of the villa. What is it? He inquired. Songzan will enter Fufeng County in 3 days, Xia Zhu replied. Cheng Chumo nodded. Summon Shao Kong, he ordered. Shao Kong was the woman who had gone to the fief to redeem Kong Ingda, and now served as the manager of the paper mill. Chapter 98. Detaining Songzan and the siege from the aristocracy upon Shao Kong's arrival. Cheng Chumo instructed her to study the paper currency. It could be called something else, but it must function as currency. The larger the ambition, the greater the yield. There is no retreat at this juncture. If Li Shimin disapproves, then he shall receive his share. After all, he will soon meet his end after consuming the elixir, at which point everything will belong to me. The best way to defeat someone is not to ruin them, but to outlast them. After relaying his instructions, Cheng Chumo, accompanied by his special forces, set out to intercept Songzan. Songzan's entourage had just entered Fufeng County, comprising over 1,000 individuals, dressed in coarse clothing adorned with jade and colorful decorations. The prince's attire was a stark contrast to that of his ministers, who were dressed more modestly. Observing the streets of Fufeng County and the passing carriages, Songzan fell silent. The disparity was not merely significant. Upon arriving in Fufeng County, one could only imagine what Chang'an would be like. This was the reality of the divide. He took out a parchment letter, woven from string in place of ink, for he lacked a pen. Charcoal can also be inscribed upon. But the journey from Tubo to the Great Hall takes half a year, rendering the characters indistinct by the time one arrives. Would the Emperor of Tang even read my letter? Songzan chuckled wryly. The ministers lowered their heads, fearing mockery. A token of affection can be conveyed through a mere feather, light in substance but rich in sentiment. Cheng Chumo positioned himself in front of the procession on horseback. Dismounting, both he and Songzan exchanged bows, albeit with Songzan's formality being somewhat clumsy. I am King Songzan, he stated. I am General Cheng Chumo. Cheng Chumo replied with equal respect. Upon seeing Songzan from a distance, Cheng Chumo relinquished any thoughts of confronting him. It would be unkind to bully the impoverished. Songzan bowed again, compelled to lower his head while under the eaves. The Tang dynasty, in its grandeur, was at least 2 centuries ahead of noble houses, a fact that incited neighboring nations to invade at any opportunity. It was not merely a desire to conquer. Progress necessitated learning from the Tang. To declare the Tang as the world's mentor is no exaggeration. Recognized globally as a flourishing era, regardless of modern advancements, the Tang remains the pinnacle of prosperity. Each nation boasts a Chinatown, with so many dynasties. Why is it called Chinatown? After exchanging pleasantries, Cheng Chumo guided Songzan into Fufeng County. Upon entering the town, Songzan was left in awe, murmuring to himself about the Celestial Empire. The term Celestial Empire was not merely a self-proclamation of the Tang. Qingdao, Cheng Chumo remarked, sparing no effort in showcasing the splendor due to his station. A single shout from him prompted the townsfolk to part ways. They eyed the tattered Tubo envoys with curiosity. Songzan smiled ruefully, clasping his fists in respect to Cheng Chumo, vowing to send emissaries to the Tang for learning. Upon reaching the government office, Cheng Chumo commanded a banquet. What is your purpose in coming to the Tang? He inquired. Songzan, candid and straightforward, replied, to learn skills. Cheng Chumo laughed. recognizing the sincerity in Songzhan's demeanor. Then learn from me. I can teach you all that I know. Songzhan shook his head, explaining that without the emperor's approval, they could not take even a thread from the Tang. In the Sui dynasty, they could attempt to seize some goods, but now they dared not do so. Returning without the emperor's consent would cost me my claim to the throne. I aspire to be king, thus I cannot return, he affirmed. Chen Chumo's expression darkened. Rising, he declared, you are rejecting my hospitality. I intended to take you as my disciple, but if you refuse my offer, then I have no choice. You should know who I am, and you shall see. With that, he departed, leaving Songzhan bewildered. Has he truly lost his temper? Is he so quick to anger? Songzhan mused. Let us leave as well, he commanded. Chen Chumo had ceased his reception. It was better to be on the road than to linger and attract disdain. Just outside the city, Songzhan was once again taken aback as the northern army of Fufeng Town sealed off the entire government office. Return, a small soldier shouted, brandishing a flag. In response, the northern army drew their swords. Songzhan clasped his fists once more and returned to the government office, stunned. News of his arrival had spread throughout the court, and the officials were eager to impeach Chen Chumo. Yet Emperor Li Shimin had scarcely attended court of late, leaving the ministers helpless. The five noble families convened once more, unconcerned with Chen Chumo's petty disputes. The Cui family of Qinghe and the Lu family of Fanyang had driven salt prices into freefall, and once their stockpiles were released, prices surged. The five noble families were left spinning. Unable to confront the two families directly, they resolved to blockade Fufeng County. A day later, goods were barred from passing through. Instead of being confiscated, they were simply sent back, all redirected to Fufeng County. Chen Chumo finally comprehended the saying prevalent in the Tang, the emperor is transient. But the noble families are eternal. True strength cannot be fabricated. They would not seize goods, but rather prevent them from passing. No one had a solution. How goes the production of paper currency? Chen Chumo inquired. It is ready for mass production, Xiazhu replied. Chen Chumo rose and made his way to Chang'an. At the Li residence, Li Jia greeted him warmly. Marquis Cheng, please enjoy some tea, he said with a smile. Chen Chumo feigned a look of bitterness. Alas Chen Chumo, have capitulated this time. Tell those five old geezers to negotiate in Fufeng County. With that, he took his leave. Haha. Li Jia laughed heartily. The five clan elders emerged from the inner hall, smiling knowingly. Let us pay him a visit, one elder from the Wang family suggested. The group returned to Fufeng County, where they received a warm welcome from Chen Chumo. The government office was deemed unusable, so discussions were held in an inn. The five elders were aware of the situation. Songzhan was under house arrest in the government office, and the location of their meeting was inconsequential. Fufeng County could provide the desired goods, but there was a condition. Chen Chumo stated plainly, you may procure goods, but payment must be made up front. Each family must contribute 1 million coins, and I will provide $1 million check for Fufeng County. You can use this money to purchase goods. Somewhat apprehensive, he knew others were not naive and could guess at his intentions. The five men exchanged knowing glances. Among noble families, we circulate IOUs, as we possess the means. Do you believe you have that power? The elder from the Zheng family inquired. I do not, but I fear nothing. You may blockade me, but that is because I, Chen Chumo, choose not to confront you directly. Try me if you dare, he replied, adopting a defiant tone. The five elders, shrewd in their demeanor, chuckled. The elder from the Zheng family gestured for Chen Chumo to remain calm. If you can resolve the blockade issue within half a month, we will agree to your terms. If not, you will abide by our IOUs. All five agreed. Very well, let us wait and see, Chen Chumo said, instructing the inn staff to treat them well, providing fine food and drink on his account. As he departed, the five exchanged glances, bemused by his audacity. They thought, he is but a young man, unafraid of the tiger. Their IOUs hold weight because they are noble families. What is Chen Chumo? Merely a second-generation official. Even if a famed general, does that truly matter? The Tang has no shortage of renowned generals. Chapter 99. Capturing 7 concubines for Li Shimin, Chen Chumo hastened directly to Chang'an, clutching several pieces of currency. At the palace, he confronted the eunuch, refusing to depart. If you do not allow me to see his majesty, I shall not leave. Let us see what you can do about it, he declared with a scowl. The eunuch smiled weakly, having never encountered such an audacious minister who would not leave without an audience. His majesty is quite busy. Father, I have urgent matters to discuss. Chen Chumo bellowed, his voice echoing throughout the palace. Li Shimin, engrossed in a medical text, felt an involuntary twitch in his eyelids. Unable to bear it any longer, I forcefully tossed the book onto the desk. Let that scoundrel in, proclaimed Li Shimin, his agitation palpable. If Chen Chumo did not present an earth-shattering reason today, he would undoubtedly face a severe punishment. Chen Chumo entered the hall of glorious ring. Your son pays his respects to father, he said, bowing deeply. Li Shimin's expression was impassive, his fury barely contained as he coldly regarded Chen Chumo. The latter felt a shiver run down his spine and produced a banknote for Li Shimin to see. Father, look at this, it's a currency I've printed. Intended for trial issuance in Fufeng County. He presented the note to Li Shimin. Li Shimin glanced at it, his fury igniting. How audacious. Do you wish to bring ruin upon your clan? Li Shimin seethed. This Chen Chumo was courting death by attempting to issue currency. Chen Chumo hastily explained, Father, calm your anger. This is not solely my endeavor. Mother is involved as well. He immediately invoked the name of Empress Zhongsun. Indeed, Li Shimin's anger somewhat abated. My plan is to encourage the aristocracy to deposit their wealth, and when they are short on funds, I will gradually raise the prices of goods, thereby draining their resources. Cheng Chumo elaborated. This is mere nonsense, Li Shimin retorted, scrutinizing Cheng Chumo for a while. He began to waver. Money was trivial, yet taxes were inevitable. If he could compel the aristocracy to marry their daughters to him, it would be ideal. The Tang dynasty lacked the means to mint currency. If he could facilitate the circulation of wealth among the aristocracy, it would be beneficial. Father, Mother's health is deteriorating day by day. You must consider a solution. Cheng Chumo urged, attempting to divert Li Shimin's focus. Li Shimin wore a cold smile, recognizing Cheng Chumo's ploy. The condition of Guanin's maid had not recently deteriorated. This young man sought to obscure the truth. If you can persuade the aristocracy to send their daughters to the palace, I will permit you to print currency. If not, you must find another way, Li Shimin declared. Li Shimin regarded Cheng Chumo's actions as mere trifles. Cheng Chumo inwardly scoffed. The once great heavenly Khan had fallen. He stole a glance at the medical texts on the desk, which had previously been official documents. In his youth, he had been diligent, yet in old age, he exhibited folly and vice, a fate that befell emperors throughout history. Rest assured, I will bring it to you tonight, Cheng Chumo vowed confidently. Leave, Li Shimin waved him away, his tone inscrutable. Cheng Chumo exited the palace. Nightfall arrived. Cheng Chumo executed another execution operation, this time targeting the unmarried daughters of the aristocracy. The special forces were divided into 7 teams, ensuring that each family was represented. Once the operation concluded, Cheng Chumo brought the 7 bound maidens to the palace, lamenting along the way about the decline of the special forces. I must see father. The task is complete, Cheng Chumo instructed the eunuch. He soon found himself face to face with Li Shimin, who appeared bewildered. Captured, he exclaimed, his expression darkening. Did I not instruct you to have the aristocracy send them? Father, you are overthinking it. It was not so troublesome. It was as simple as extinguishing a light. Rest assured, should any issues arise, I shall bear the consequences, and you may feign ignorance, Cheng Chumo replied, brimming with pride. Li Shimin was intrigued. Glancing at the 7 beautiful maidens, his heart stirred. He mused that Cheng Chumo was indeed reliable. I know nothing of this. You may proceed, Li Shimin acquiesced. Cheng Chumo did not leave. There was still another matter to address. Father, certain local officials are preventing my goods from leaving the border. This is a provocation against me. I request your permission to execute them, Cheng Chumo declared, his anger palpable. Li Shimin, however, was preoccupied with the 7 maidens and had no time for Cheng Chumo's trivial matters. Do not trouble me with these affairs. Begone, he dismissed. Cheng Chumo bowed and took his leave. The execution plan commenced. Cheng Chumo, armed with the list compiled by Xia Zhu, began his campaign. Local officials were seized, subjected to brutal beatings, and their children abducted as hostages. Over the course of 2 weeks, hundreds of local officials fell victim to this scheme. At a tavern in Fufeng County, Cheng Chumo reveled in his triumph. The 5 patriarchs of the great clans wore expressions of indignation. The patriarch of the Zheng family trembled with rage, unable to articulate his fury, for his granddaughter had been captured by Cheng Chumo and sent to Li Shimin. Li Shimin refused to acknowledge the truth, leaving the maidens in the harem. Who would dare investigate within the palace? The aristocracy found themselves in a position of helplessness, forced to swallow their grievances. Calm yourselves. This is for the best. No one will dare obstruct the passage of your goods. You need not worry. No one will impede your shipments. The children of those officials are currently studying in Fufeng County. Should they act dishonestly, I shall make an example of them. Cheng Chumo winked at the 5 men, his demeanor lecherous. The 5 finally comprehended why no one wished to provoke Cheng Chumo. This scoundrel played by no established rules. He first delivered 7 daughters of the aristocracy to silence Li Shimin, then retaliated against the officials who obstructed his trade. This entire operation flowed seamlessly. The aristocracy valued their reputation. Li Shimin would not disclose the presence of their daughters in the palace. Yet who could assure that Cheng Chumo would keep silent? His lecherous gaze spoke of indiscretion. If he were to speak out, who could hold him accountable? The 5 exchanged glances, each recognizing the bitterness in the other's eyes. No depth of cunning could protect them. Cheng Chumo was simply too ruthless. Thus, the matter was settled. Let us depart, said the patriarch of the Wang family. The 5 rose and left, vowing never to lay eyes on Cheng Chumo again. Before he could bask in his victory, a maidservant of Empress Zhongsun approached him. The Empress requests your presence, she said. Cheng Chumo's expression fell. He was about to face the music for having provided Li Shimin with 7 concubines. You tell mother that you haven't seen me. I have matters to attend to, Cheng Chumo declared as he attempted to leave. The maid grasped his arm firmly. The Empress knew you would try to escape. Come with me to see her, she insisted, refusing to relent. The Empress had specifically instructed that Cheng Chumo be brought back. With no option left, he followed the maid to the estate. In the villa, he bowed low. Your son pays his respects to mother. He kept his gaze downcast. Empress Zhongsun's expression was not pleasant. Ah, Chumo, how impressive. You've even found 7 concubines for your father, she remarked, her tone unnerving. Cheng Chumo felt a chill run down his spine. Leave us. Empress Zhongsun commanded the maidservants, who promptly exited. How is your father's health? she inquired. Fairly well, Cheng Chimo replied. Empress Zhongsun nodded. She did not oppose Li Shimin selecting concubines. However, she was concerned that Li Shimin had become too distracted. He had even taken the mother of Yang Guifei, the former empress, as a lover, something Empress Zhongsun had not anticipated. With a deep sigh, Empress Zhongsun's expression conveyed the weight of her thoughts. Chapter 100. Envoys from all nations, Li Chengqian begins to change. Empress Zhongsun understood that even if Cheng Chimo did not present beauties to Li Shimin, the emperor would seek them out himself. The court was now stable. No longer akin to the turmoil of his ascension, imperial power had consolidated, leaving behind the previous struggles. Bitterly smiling, she had once thought that her own allure would suffice to limit Li Shimin's selection of concubines. It seemed she had underestimated the situation. To everyone's astonishment, Xiao Mingyang has been granted entry into the palace. What does this mean for the esteemed Yang Guifei and for Prince Li Ku? Are the mother and son duo now expected to serve Emperor Li Shimin together? Despite Xiao Mingyang's beauty, she is over 60, which in this era is equivalent to a centenarian in modern times. One might ponder, how does the Empress Dowager compare to Xiao Mingyang? The Empress Zhongsun reflects, her confidence wavering, finding it difficult to articulate her thoughts. Undoubtedly, the Empress is the most beautiful of all. Cheng Chimo speaks with sincerity, not uttering mere flattery. Empress Zhongsun is an almost flawless woman, a true virtuous partner with exceptional beauty and an open-mindedness that transcends her time. Were she a man's wife, he would surely achieve greatness. Yet, should she belong to another, one must tread lightly. Her poem Spring Excursion is indeed a work of exquisite artistry. Who could possibly refuse such an empress? She excels in both the grand hall and the kitchen, and still manages to surprise in delightful ways. Empress Zhongsun forces a smile, inquiring if all matters are settled. She wishes to avoid discussing Li Shimin, feeling powerless to change the course of events. The 5 prominent families have accepted paper currency, agreeing to deposit 1 million copper coins from Fufeng County into their coffers. Cheng Chimo notes, these funds have already wounded the family's vitality, ensuring that he can rest easy as long as he does not court disaster. Those families will not let their wealth vanish into thin air. You must maintain a low profile henceforth, advises Empress Zhongsun. She refrains from voicing the rest of her thoughts, as she stands between her husband, Li Shimin, and her sons, Li Chengqian and Li Tai, a dilemma she dares not confront. It is well known that Li Shimin favors Li Tai, otherwise, he would not have named him Qingke. A cough escapes from Empress Zhongsun. Rest easy, mother. I vow to protect the crown prince with my life, Cheng Chimo reassures. Among the princes, he is only close to Li Chengqian, remaining unfamiliar with the others. Aligning with Li Chengqian is certainly a wise choice. Empress Zhongsun nods, comforted by his words. Excellent. Your support brings me peace. Develop Fufeng County freely. With you at the helm, all shall be well. Empress Zhongsun resolves to take action for her son, determined to secure a worry-free life for him, even if she cannot alter the greater circumstances. In this moment, she stands in opposition to Li Shimin, to Confucian ideals, and to the prominent families, yet she feels no regret. Perhaps it is a futile endeavor, but Empress Zhongsun must act, for every parent feels the weight of such burdens. The issuance of paper currency in Fufeng County proceeds smoothly, circulating solely among merchants. The Second Grand Assembly of Nations unfolds, distinct from the last, as all arrive bearing tributes. Circumventing Fufeng County, any who pass through it would be deemed foolish. Fengxiang County buzzes with activity. The county magistrate, Wang Yuan, a supporter of Li Tai, has decreed that foreign envoys passing through shall incur no costs, including for lodging and meals. Cheng Chimo, upon learning of this, scoffs. He knows Li Tai all too well. A man capable of uttering threats against his own kin cannot be a good person. Li Shimin, in his youth, appears gentle, yet possesses a ruthless streak. Who is the magistrate of Fengxiang County? Cheng Chimo inquires. Chai Xiao, comes the response. At the mention of Chai Xiao, Cheng Chimo's expression turns grave. Chai Xiao hails from a distinguished military family and is the founding prince consort, a skilled and valiant warrior. Cheng Chimo has not met Chai Xiao, but he has heard of his prowess. I have heard he is quite formidable. I shall seek an opportunity to spar with him, Cheng Chimo declares. A soft chuckle escapes Empress Zhongsun, amused by Cheng Chimo's demeanor. She appreciates his defiance, believing that young men ought to be so spirited. Very well. When you find the chance to confront him, prepare to accompany your mother back to the capital. The Empress must be present for the Grand Assembly. Empress Zhongsun is reluctant to return, but knows she must. Cheng Chimo harbors concerns for her health, as the palace lacks the comforts of their estate. Mother, your health may not withstand the palace's oppressive atmosphere, he observes. Empress Zhongsun smiles wryly, acknowledging her limitations, yet she feels compelled to endure. I am fine. Go and make preparations, she instructs. Cheng Chimo can only acquiesce. 3 days later, Empress Zhongsun returns to Chang'an, heading directly to Liza Hall without seeking an audience with Li Shimin. Cheng Chimo brings Songzan to Chang'an. The young man has shown resilience, refusing to yield after being confined for a time. He is determined to meet the Emperor of Tang. Upon arriving in Chang'an, Li Tai personally greets him. Cheng Chimo proceeds to the Eastern Palace, where he finds Li Chengqian attempting to walk with a cane, relieved that it does not pain him. Li Chengqian smiles at Cheng Chimo's arrival. You've returned. I hear you've come into some fortune. Li Chengqian's spirits seem buoyed. Indeed, Cheng Chimo responds, assisting Li Chengqian as they walk. After a moment, Cheng Chimo's expression darkens. You might want to reconsider your actions, he warns with anger. Li Chengqian hastily withdraws his hand, realizing Cheng Chimo is serious. In his youth, Cheng Chimo had disciplined him for similar behavior. A flamboyantly dressed man approaches, offering a platter of fruits. Your Highness, please enjoy some fruit. Cheng Chimo feels a chill run down his spine, glaring at Li Chengqian. How could you indulge in such behavior? What will the crown princess think? Cheng Chimo scolds. Li Chengqian appears indifferent, having gradually succumbed to a more reckless demeanor. Overwhelmed by pressure, he finds that women can no longer satisfy him and ultimately returns to his baser instincts. What of it? I am weary. Indulging myself feels liberating, he replies, casting a longing glance at Chengqian. Chengqian takes Li Chengqian's arm, her face flushed with shyness. Cheng Chimo recoils in disbelief, a surge of anger welling within him. Li Chengqian, how could you? The rest of his words falter as he feels disgusted. Had Li Chengqian maintained even a semblance of his former self, Cheng Chimo would have tirelessly supported his ascension to the throne, regardless of the potential for another coup. Yet, Li Chengqian has now given up on himself. Chimo, do not be angry. Let us enjoy some food and drink, Li Chengqian suggests. As he speaks, maidens bring forth platters of meat. Cheng Chimo's heart grows cold as he watches Li Chengqian. This is beef. The crown prince eats beef, openly defying the laws of the Tang. He has truly descended into indulgence. Cheng Chimo's cold laughter belies his inner fury. By all means, indulge yourself. Injuries take 100 days to heal, and I will wait a month before I confront you again. He storms out, leaving Li Chengqian with a bitter smile. Chengqian, Cheng Chimo is the only one who truly cares for me, he sighs. And I care too, Chengqian replies softly. Li Chengqian remains silent, staring at Cheng Chimo's retreating figure. Lost in thought, he deliberately allows Cheng Chimo to witness this. With the throne now out of reach, he resolves not to implicate his brothers further. A sinister grin crosses Li Chengqian's face. He is not a man resigned to fate. Let us see how this unfolds, he muses. Chapter 101. The enduring legacy of porcelain in a grand celebration. The decree of amnesty is proclaimed across the land. Delegates from numerous nations, exceeding 100,000, arrive, including nobility and even sovereigns in person. This occasion is not merely one of homage. It is a moment of reverence and learning. The Tang dynasty presented only the splendor of its prosperous era, concealing the rest. This deepened the control over artisans, enforced private ownership, and perpetuated a cycle of servitude. The export of goods was severely restricted, with no nation permitted to sell steel or salt without authorization. In a bid to appease the aristocracy, they even developed porcelain, a treasure of the Celestial Empire. Cheng Chimo was assigned the task of promoting this porcelain, proclaiming its enduring legacy. A plate shall be everlasting. Upon the announcement of this slogan, not only did foreign nations clamor to purchase it, but even the affluent of the Tang began to acquire porcelain, causing prices to soar. At the Chui family of Qinghe and Chang'an, Chui Wenqing praised, Brother Cheng, what a remarkable strategy. You have exchanged mere shards for a wealth of gold and silver. He scrutinized Cheng Chimo's forehead, curious about the source of his ingenuity. Cheng Chimo retorted with a glare, nonsense. Who said those were mere shards? He was well aware of the value that a piece of Tang porcelain would hold for posterity, an invaluable treasure. The phrase a plate shall be everlasting was no mere embellishment. Porcelain was not akin to diamonds. Lu Jingzhua smiled quietly from the side, having reaped considerable benefits from associating with Cheng Chimo. Indeed, Brother Cheng speaks the truth. We cannot touch iron. Selling it to foreign nations would be treason. As for salt, we could stretch our hands. What do you think, Brother Cheng? Chui Wenqing smiled obsequiously, his avarice evident as he planned to sell salt abroad. Cheng Chimo nodded, approving the notion. A nation grows wealthy by earning foreign currency. Relying solely on domestic income is no skill at all. You are correct. We could sell salt at 20 times its price to foreign lands, Cheng Chimo declared. Yet the court has forbidden it. Unless we resort to smuggling, Lu Jingzhua interjected. Chui Wenqing scoffed dismissively, viewing Lu as a mere bookworm, too naive. Smuggling? He scoffed. Only those without power or influence smuggle. Those with power call it assistance. Lu Jingzhua glared at Chui Wenqing, both prepared for a confrontation. Cheng Chimo observed the spectacle, amused by their standoff. Why not just fight? He teased. The two huffed in unison, turning their heads away. We need not smuggle. The court does not permit private trade. But we can obtain a license. Tomorrow, the officials from your family can bring this matter up, Cheng Chimo suggested. They exchanged glances. Very well. We shall both strive for this tomorrow, they replied in unison. Cheng Chimo shook his head. You need not concern yourselves. Just mention it. And I shall handle the rest alone. The two were nearly choked by his audacity. After such fervent discussion, he intended to monopolize the endeavor? What of their brotherhood? Is this how you treat friends? Chui Wenqing lamented, attempting to appeal to their camaraderie, hoping to secure a share of the profits. Cheng Chimo remained unfazed. Rest assured, I will not shortchange you. It is settled. Chui Wenqing and Lu Jingzhua exchanged wry smiles, pondering why he was so unwilling to share even a morsel. The next day, during the Grand Court Assembly, not only ministers were present, but also foreign kings and envoys. Li Shimin donned a black embroidered dragon robe, a comparison to the first emperor of Qin. Everyone bowed deeply before him, regardless of their status. Ching Chumo stood among the military officials in the second row. Today, my heart is greatly comforted. Harmony reigns across the realm, Li Shimin declared. The foreign envoys echoed in agreement. Bestow seats, Li Shimin continued. Eunuchs brought forth several scrolls. Prepared for the sovereign, as basic diplomatic etiquette required even if not on equal footing. Nations began to present their tributes, and the civil ministers listened intently. Among them, Minister of Rights Kong Ingda was the most attentive, ready to point out any inadequacies in the gifts presented. The Confucian representatives were not only respected in the Tang, but also commanded reverence from other nations, all of which were somewhat influenced by Confucianism. Kong Ingda's meticulous scrutiny earned him the approval of Li Shimin, prompting him to work even harder. A small figure bowed and announced, "Our nation of Hua presents 2 beautiful maidens." Li Shimin, intrigued, inquired, "What sort of beauty does Hua possess? How tall are they?" The ministers shared his curiosity. Soon, 2 pale-faced women entered the hall, each barely 5 feet tall, clad in white garments, for Hua favored black and white. Ching Chumo was taken aback. What on earth? Have they suffered a calamity? He glanced at Li Shimin, only to see the emperor's expression darken. Ching Chumo seized the opportunity, stepping forward. "This is a blatant provocation against the Tang. I implore your majesty to decree a campaign against Hua." The Hua envoy collapsed in terror, never having imagined that presenting maidens would lead to such a predicament. Inwardly, he lamented, having been discovered. His intention in sending the 2 maidens was to potentially bring back a child, thus elevating Hua's status to that of the Celestial Empire. Such schemes were not lost on the ministers. Few women sent as tributes were capable of bearing children, and those who did were often discreetly dealt with. The ministers echoed their agreement. Indeed, they chorused. "Very well," Li Shimin responded. Ching Chumo nearly leaped with joy. Li Shimin regarded him with satisfaction, appreciating his cooperation. A mix of reward and discipline was necessary to ensure the compliance of foreign nations. Next, they would offer a sweet incentive. "I have decided to establish boundary trade. Esteemed ministers, who do you deem fit to oversee this?" Li Shimin asked, glancing at Ching Chumo. The ministers instantly understood. Recognizing that this was an invitation for Ching Chumo to take charge, Li Tai, bowing, added, "I support this notion. However, I have been feeling unwell, father. Perhaps you should appoint someone else." Ching Chumo clutched his stomach, inwardly cursing, determined not to be sidelined. He turned to the aristocratic officials, who immediately grasped his intent and were willing to assist him, as they too sought that position. "I believe this matter is not urgent," Cui Jian suggested, with others voicing their support. The aristocratic ministers, bowing in agreement, revealed the nature of court politics. Temporary alliances formed on mutual benefit. At this moment, they decisively aligned with Ching Chumo, which was not entirely altruistic. Each had their own interests at stake. Li Shimin smiled, but said nothing, knowing that his actions would cause Li Chengqian to reassess his ambitions. Ching Chumo was both a lifeline and a potential threat to Li Chengqian. However, Li Shimin was unhurried, for he sought longevity, and after achieving it, he would reign eternally. The identity of the crowned prince mattered little. "I, as a prince, wish to seek the hand of a Tang princess. I request your permission," Emperor Songzan humbly stated, presenting a stack of sheepskin to Li Shimin. The emperor opened it, unable to decipher the Tibetan script, but found it amusing that the characters were woven with string, displaying thoughtfulness. The matter of marrying off a princess could not be rushed. "Well, Songzan, you are earnest. First, you must study under the descendant of Confucius, Kong Ingda. For a while, my beloved daughter will not agree without a common language." Li Shimin replied, neither granting nor denying his request, leaving it to Songzan's actions. Songzan is no fool. He comprehends the intentions of Li Shimin. He endeavors to learn the culture of the Tang dynasty alongside Kong Ingda, understanding that for Tubo to flourish, it must embrace such knowledge. Though it is a challenging acceptance, it is one that is imperative, for Tubo requires a formidable external ally to maintain domestic tranquility. The conflicts among the slave owners are escalating. Without the support of the Tang, fragmentation is imminent. "I shall dedicate myself to my studies," Songzan affirmed. Chapter 102. The pursuit of profit. The ministers were indifferent to Prince Songzan's proposal for marriage. Even if a union were to occur, it could not be with a princess. At most, it would be with a county princess, with the title elevated to that of a princess. The trade of salt must be targeted. To prevent chaos in the salt market, an office should be established to oversee it, proposed Cui Jian. The ministers murmured in agreement. Ceasing further discussion, Ching Chumo had initiated the conversation, and the remainder was no longer of their concern. Li Shimin nodded in agreement. Let this matter be entrusted to Prince Wei. He amplified his support, recognizing that Li Tai had garnered significant power, yet still lagged behind Li Chengqian. For 2 tigers to contend, they must be evenly matched. Li Tai was overjoyed, bowing in gratitude. "I oppose this," Ching Chumo interjected, bowing as well. Li Tai's expression darkened. It was a foregone conclusion that Ching Chumo would oppose, signaling a complete alignment with Li Chengqian. "Oh, I wonder why you oppose my governance of the salt trade. Given that I control it?" Li Tai glared at Ching Chumo, his eyes blazing with animosity. Ching Chumo paid him no heed. He was inconsequential. "May I inquire, esteemed father, does managing the salt trade not require salt? What authority does Prince Wei have to oversee it without any?" Li Shimin chuckled. As emperors often revel in the spectacle from their lofty perches, my family is capable of providing salt. My house is willing to entrust the management of the salt trade to Prince Wei. The noble ministers collectively rallied behind Li Tai. He wore a triumphant expression. Such was the will of the people. Cheng Chumo's countenance darkened. Very well, there is no dispute. Prince Wei Li Tai shall be responsible for the control of the salt trade, Li Shimin declared, finalizing the decision. The court was adjourned. After the court session, Cheng Chumo and Li Tai remained behind in the Ganlu Hall. You must support one another, do you understand? Li Shimin instructed. Cheng Chumo stood to one side, staring at the ground. Support one another? What of Li Chengqian? There would never be a time for him to ally with Li Tai. Li Shimin was unconcerned with Cheng Chumo's thoughts. His notion of support was not genuine. The Crown Prince's faction controlled Fufeng County, while Li Tai governed Jingzhou Prefecture, indirectly overseeing Fengshan County. If Fufeng County managed the salt trade, it was unacceptable for Li Tai to monopolize it. Rest assured, I will support my brother-in-law, Li Tai asserted. Turning to Cheng Chumo with a friendly tone, isn't that right, brother-in-law? We are not well acquainted, Cheng Chumo replied, leaving no face for Li Tai. Li Tai's expression remained unchanged as he bowed his head and fell silent. Li Shimin waved his hand. You may leave. The two exited the Ganlu Hall. Li Tai concealed his smile. Cheng Chumo, you should carefully consider your actions. When two elephants clash, it is best for the ants to stay far away, lest they be trampled. After saying this, Li Tai departed. Cheng Chumo had no inclination to argue and headed straight to the Lijing Hall. Upon arriving at the Lijing Hall, he heard the cough of Empress Changsun. Cheng Chumo hurried inside. Mother, how are you? Shall we return? He inquired. Empress Changsun shook her head. She could not leave at this juncture, for it concerned the state. The Empress of the Empire must remain in the palace at such a time. Coughing persistently, she struggled to speak. Please wait for me, Cheng Chumo said, exiting the Lijing Hall to return to the Ganlu Hall. Your son pays respects to you, father. He greeted Li Shimin, who was engrossed in a medical text. Do you have further matters to discuss? Li Shimin asked, in remarkably good spirits. Mother's condition has worsened. The palace is too cold. I propose we allow her to recuperate at the estate in Fufeng, Cheng Chumo suggested. He was prepared for punishment. For proposing to send Empress Changsun to Fufeng was provocative. Li Shimin's heart quivered, and his expression shifted slightly. He contemplated visiting Guanyin, but reconsidered, feeling somewhat guilty about taking the former empress. After being turned away at the Lijing Hall last time, he decided against seeking further humiliation. It mattered not if her health faltered. Once he perfected the elixir of immortality, he would consume it first and then offer it to Guanyin. At that time, all matters would be resolved. If you are determined, then let us proceed. Have divine physician Sun attend to your mother's health, Li Shimin concluded. Cheng Chumo complied and returned to the Lijing Hall. Be swift. Do not gather unnecessary items. Cheng Chumo instructed the palace maids to prepare. Chumo, mother cannot leave. Empress Changsun's voice trembled. Speaking was laborious for her. Women are often envious. Empress Changsun was no exception. In her absence, other women would seize the opportunity to overshadow her. Cheng Chumo was indifferent to her protests. Li Shimin had already consented, and that sufficed as an imperial decree. With the carriage prepared, the maids lifted Empress Changsun into it. Tears welled in her eyes. She genuinely did not wish to depart, but her frail health forbade her from continuing her role as the mother of the nation. Cheng Chumo's heart ached at the sight of her tears, marking the first time he witnessed Empress Changsun cry. He steeled himself. He could not afford to be soft-hearted. Nothing is more vital than life itself. Let us depart, he commanded, leading Empress Changsun away from Chang'an towards Fufeng County. Chang'an remained as bustling as ever without Empress Changsun. That night, a grand banquet commenced. Li Shimin's four esteemed royal concubines attended in place of the empress, along with one Xiao Guifei. The festivities were lively, and Li Shimin even performed a rendition of Qin Wangpuzhen. None of this concerned Cheng Chumo, who was traveling through the night. Inside the carriage, Empress Changsun reclined while Cheng Chumo rode alongside, conversing with her from a distance. Mother, your health is paramount. Let us set aside other matters for now, he comforted. Come in. Empress Changsun's voice was barely audible, drowned out by the creaking of the carriage. What? Cheng Chumo did not catch her words. The empress requests you to enter. A palace maid relayed. Cheng Chumo stepped into the carriage. Empress Changsun appeared significantly better. Perhaps the palace had been toxic. I am concerned, mother. Do you believe you can endure? She sighed, reflecting on fate. In a flourishing era, there is no place for me. It is best to rest, she mused, pulling the blanket tighter against the chill, longing for the warmth of the estate. Coughing lightly, Empress Changsun drew the attention of Cheng Chumo, who promptly supported her and gently patted her back until her complexion returned to normal. Mother, you are weary. Please rest for a while. I will stay here, she instructed, shifting her body to lie down and soon fell asleep, her breathing steady, curled up like a child afraid of the cold. Cheng Chumo shook his head, casting aside distractions as he contemplated the next course of action. Li Shimin had already issued a decree for the expedition against Japan, which could only commence when spring arrived. Uncertainty loomed over the strategy, whether it was to annihilate the nation or merely to teach them a lesson. Regardless of the circumstances, one must seize the position of the commander. At the very least, securing the role of a vanguard. Engaging directly with the Wan nation is imperative. Relying on others will not suffice. Additionally, in the realm of border trade, Li Tai will undoubtedly devise ways to transfer Cheng Chumo away from Chang'an, and it is crucial that he does not depart. Should Cheng Chumo leave, Li Chengqian would be in peril. Cheng Chumo's mere presence in Fufeng County serves as a deterrent, even if he remains inactive. The aristocracy truly acts as Li Tai's loyal hounds, Cheng Chumo mused, harboring a disdain for the profit-driven gentry. Yet this is the harsh reality. In Chapter 103, the multitude of sects in Tianzhu is noted for its cleanliness and hygiene. It was anticipated that the Cui and Lu families would adopt a wait-and-see approach. However, they unexpectedly took a decisive stance on the future crown prince without a moment's hesitation. They possess a considerable supply of yellow salt, which will likely be sold to foreign nations at exorbitant prices, promising substantial profits. Contemplating this, Cheng Chumo's gaze turned icy. Monopolizing this venture is out of the question. 2 days later, Cheng Chumo returned to Fufeng County. After ensuring the well-being of Empress Changsun, he sought out Xiazhu. All goods will be supplied in limited quantities. Cheng Chumo instructed. Understood, Xiazhu replied. A eunuch entered with the imperial edict, announcing Cheng Chumo's appointment as the governor of Liangzhou, tasked with overseeing border trade. Cheng Chumo received the edict in silence, his complexion turning a shade of crimson afterward. He pondered, how could you do this to your own son? Xiazhu feigned ignorance, aware that Cheng Chumo's remarks were directed at Li Shimin, which could be deemed insubordination. Resolutely, Cheng Chumo thought to himself, do not blame me, Cheng Chumo. A wicked smile crept upon his lips, sending a shiver through Xiazhu. It was the first time she witnessed such a countenance from her lord. Bring me paper and ink, Cheng Chumo commanded. Xiazhu complied, and he began to write. In Tianzhu, with its myriad sects, even a stone is worshipped. I find myself perplexed, as there must be a reason behind it all. Might there exist undisclosed treasures in Tianzhu? I humbly request permission to investigate. Upon completion, he dispatched the letter to Chang'an, instructing his messenger to depart. As he awaited the return of Sun Simiao, before proceeding to Liangzhou, the empress's health was paramount. Within a day's time, the memorial reached Li Shimin's desk. He perused it with a smile, interpreting it as Cheng Chumo's reluctance to draft the memorial as a means of evasion. This matter could not be trifled with, whether he wished to or not. He must comply. Li Shimin casually discarded it without further inspection. That night, feeling somewhat idle, Li Shimin found excitement in being revered as the Heavenly Khan by the steppe peoples, a title unique to him, solidifying his status as an emperor of ages. His gaze fell upon the memorial in the corner, and he opened it with keen interest, his eyes gleaming and hands trembling slightly. Excellent, excellent, he exclaimed. Tianzhu, the birthplace of Buddhism, undoubtedly harbors what he seeks. Following the previous failure in acquiring the elixir, Li Shimin felt uncertain and resolved that someone must be sent to investigate Tianzhu. If he could locate it, he would be prepared for anything. Immortality would be within reach. Summon Wang Xuanzhe to the palace, Li Shimin instructed. Wang Xuanzhe, the conqueror of nations. Wang Xuanzhe bowed in respect. No need for formalities. What do you know of Tianzhu? Li Shimin inquired. Wang Xuanzhe pondered carefully, refraining from speaking hastily. He had visited once, where even a stone could be venerated, and the land was dotted with ascetics. The food was unforgettable, immaculately clean, uniform in appearance. The populace is quite traditional, and there are many small states, Wang Xuanzhe reported. Tianzhu is not a single nation. It is a collective term. At that time, there was no unification, with dozens of small states. Some of the darker-skinned slaves in the Tang dynasty were purchased from there. Li Shimin frowned, sensing the discussion was veering off course. What wonders or peculiarities exist? He pressed, nearly asking directly if there were elixirs. Indeed, they possess a certain plant, the size of a bird's egg, reputed to be exceptionally delicious, Wang Xuanzhe replied. Li Shimin's heart raced with excitement. The size of a bird's egg could indeed signify the size of an elixir. Prepare for a mission to Tianzhu, and bring back what you have described, Li Shimin commanded. As you wish, Wang Xuanzhe acquiesced. Wang Xuanzhe's fate was unfortunate. Historically, he was tasked with retrieving the elixir, only to return as Li Shimin lay gravely ill, having just taken a bite before succumbing. This burden haunted Wang Xuanzhe throughout his life. Had it not been for the unwavering support of the civil and military officials, he would have likely perished unjustly. Wang Xuanzhe took his leave, and a eunuch entered, carrying a delicate glass lamp, a rare item in this era. The eunuch stumbled, shattering the lamp. Li Shimin stared in disbelief at the shards, his fury igniting. The eunuch, momentarily blank in thought, feared for his life. This lamp had been a tribute from a foreign nation, cherished by Li Shimin, utilized nightly while reading. You wretch, the eunuch thought, regaining his senses and bowing in anticipation of his fate. Bu Shiren, you have served me for many years. I cannot bring myself to execute you. Accompany Wang Xuanzhe to Tianzhu to atone for your mistakes. You are aware of what I seek, Li Shimin declared. He had indeed contemplated vengeance, but reconsidered. It was not worth taking the life of a loyal servant over a mere object. If Bu Shiren were to retrieve valuable items from Tianzhu, it would not be without merit. Grateful, Bu Shiren bowed in thanks and departed from Ganlu Palace, chuckling ruefully at his misfortune. How had he slipped? It was too late to dwell on it. He needed to gather his things and find Wang Xuanzhe. Sun Simiao and Long Gui finally returned, burdened with numerous packages from their successful venture. Master, you have returned at last. Divine physician, please attend to my mother, Cheng Chimo urged. The two immediately followed him to the villa, where Empress Changsun was polishing a Buddhist statue. She slightly bowed upon seeing Long Gui and Sun Simiao. Greetings to both esteemed elders. Without wasting time, Sun Simiao directly took the Empress's pulse, his expression growing grave. What has transpired? When I departed, her health was improving. Why has it worsened? He questioned. Under normal circumstances, the Empress's condition should have been stabilizing. It was perplexing that it had deteriorated. Cheng Chimo recounted all that had transpired that year, and Sun Simiao stroked his beard, realizing it was a matter of the heart, a challenging predicament. Cheng Chimo, anxious, attempted to smooth Sun Simiao's beard, causing the latter's face to flush with irritation as he glared at Cheng Chimo. Divine physician, why are you staring at me? I am not a healer. Cheng Chimo exclaimed in distress. Sun Simiao delivered a swift slap to the back of Cheng Chimo's head, who had not been struck in quite some time and was momentarily taken aback, seeing double. Do you need another one? Sun Simiao threatened, but Long Gui interjected hastily. If you hit him again, you'll make him foolish. Focus on treating the patient first. Relenting, Sun Simiao turned his attention back to the Empress. A heart ailment requires a heart remedy, he stated, signaling for Long Gui to counsel the Empress. As Long Gui was about to stroke his beard, he noticed Cheng Chimo glaring intently and decided against it. The fate of a person is preordained, and indulging in idle thoughts serves no purpose. Li Chengxian was born into prosperity, his fortune bestowed upon him in his early years. The current emperor has seized the realm, and every endeavor comes with its price. Abandoning familial ties results in a lack of compassion and loyalty. Relinquishing once leads to relinquishing countless times. As for the elixir, it is merely an obsession without resolution. Long Gui spoke in one breath. The Empress Changsun bowed in gratitude. He understood what Long Gui expressed, yet it was difficult to comprehend the feelings involved unless one experienced them personally. Only the Empress Changsun could fathom the emotions of a mother witnessing her son limp painfully. No one could truly grasp the helplessness of a wife seeing her husband recklessly courting death. As the wife of Li Shimin, the Empress Changsun found herself gradually opposing him for the sake of her son, feeling as though she had lost everything. Long Gui shook his head. Realizing the Empress was trapped in a vicious cycle, he turned to Sun Simiao. Is there a remedy? Sun Simiao nodded affirmatively, yet feared the Empress might refuse, as a cleansing was necessary. Chapter 104. A folk remedy for illness. There is a method, but it requires cleansing, Sun Simiao stated. Cheng Chimo, in a fit of rage, pointed an accusatory finger at Sun Simiao. You, an old pedant, speak of joy and recovery? How could you even think of such a thing, you quack? Joyous recovery is a vile habit and utterly useless. What nonsense is this from the current Empress? Sun Simiao, despite being berated, remained composed, though his chest heaved with indignation. Had it not been for Long Gui's restraint, he might have struck Cheng Chimo senseless. Chimo, refrain from such reckless words. Let us heed the physician's counsel. The Empress Changsun intervened, trusting that the esteemed doctor would not speak without purpose. Sun Simiao adjusted his attire and shot a fierce glare at Cheng Chimo. Your pulse is weak and erratic, indicative of insufficient blood flow. Coughing and dizziness are similarly related to the heart. We must guide your heartbeat to improve your condition. Additionally, with my exclusive medicinal bath, I am confident of a cure. Sun Simiao elaborated. The Empress Changsun nodded, affirming the physician's words, as she sometimes felt as though she were dying, unable to sense her own heartbeat. You need a man to sit back to back with you in the medicinal pool, allowing his heartbeat to synchronize with yours. Once your heartbeats align, your ailment will be resolved, Sun Simiao continued. Cheng Chimo suddenly understood. So that is the cleansing method. I thought it merely involved finding a young lad. The Empress Changsun's face flushed crimson. Would it be feasible for me to return to Chang'an with His Majesty? She inquired, contemplating this course of action. Sun Simiao shook his head. What reaction do you expect from sitting back to back with Li Shimin? He queried. The Empress Changsun's face reddened further. What sort of reaction could an old couple have? It would be akin to merely touching hands, hardly anything to note. Precisely, if there is no sensation. What purpose does the back-to-back position serve? Sun Simiao replied. Women are not suitable. Their heartbeats are too faint to influence yours. It must be a man. Preferably one whose heart is broad and somewhat oblivious, and whose physique is robust. Sun Simiao added, glancing at Cheng Chimo. Cheng Chimo straightened his demeanor. Such a man is rare to find. I can match the earlier criteria, but I am far too astute to fit the latter. Sun Simiao turned his head away. And Long Gui shared the same thought, inwardly lamenting his apprentice's lack of self-awareness. You are indeed simple-minded, without question. Cheng Chimo looked to the Empress Changsun. Mother, do you think I am simple-minded? He asked earnestly. The Empress Changsun chuckled, her tension dissipating. Having experienced much in her 30-plus years, she knew Cheng Chimo was indeed the most suitable candidate. Most importantly, he would keep it confidential, being family. She turned to Sun Simiao. I appreciate your help, esteemed physician, she said softly, having accepted the proposed treatment method. Everyone ignored Cheng Chimo and began their preparations. In the villa, there was a bath suitable for this purpose. They replaced the water with hot water and tossed in herbs as if they were free. Sun Simiao even added a ginseng root into the mixture. The water temperature gradually lowered, and Sun Simiao was pleased with his creation. We can begin now, he declared, departing with Long Gui. Cheng Chimo followed. But Sun Simiao pushed him back. What purpose do you serve here? He chastised. Cheng Chumo grimaced, knowing this task was advantageous yet perilous. Should Li Shimin discover it, he would be doomed. The many palace maids and eunuchs surrounding the empress would surely gossip. I refuse. This is a matter of life and death, he protested, preparing to make a break for it. Come back, the Empress Changsun commanded. Cheng Chumo froze, reluctantly returning to the edge of the bath. The Empress Changsun's cheeks flushed slightly. She felt uncomfortable with the arrangement. Yet, in truth, having Cheng Chumo was preferable to anyone else. Besides, it was not as if they would share a bed. No one is more suitable than you, Chumo. It is fine, and no one will blame you, the Empress Changsun reassured him. Feeling awkward, she thought about the implications of Li Shimin sharing a bed with her mother while she was with her son-in-law. She consoled herself. This is merely for healing. Cheng Chumo chuckled wryly, knowing that even if nothing happened, Li Shimin was still alive. Mother, why not return to Chang'an with father and give it a try? He suggested. The Empress Changsun shot him a disapproving glance. Did you not hear the physician say that a lack of sensation is essential? This is a classic case of wanting to steal but lacking the courage. Why not be afraid when watching yourself? No one will know. The palace maids and eunuchs have already been dispatched on errands, the Empress Changsun replied, her tone tinged with exasperation. Cheng Chumo gritted his teeth, thinking it foolish not to seize an opportunity, allowing a woman to take the lead in such matters. He began to disrobe. Soon, he was left with only a thin layer of clothing, stepping into the pool first to settle in. Turn your back, the Empress Changsun instructed. Cheng Chumo felt a bit embarrassed facing her. He complied, and the Empress Changsun, similarly clad in a white garment, entered the pool. Their backs pressed together, both shuddered simultaneously. The Empress Changsun closed her eyes as her heartbeat quickened. Cheng Chumo's heartbeat raced even faster, as if he could hear the pounding. After a moment, the Empress Changsun adjusted to the sensation, feeling a gentle rhythm against her back, steady and strong. Her heartbeat began to synchronize with this rhythm, but soon she felt overwhelmed, struggling to breathe. The water temperature gradually increased as the pipes began heating the water, creating a misty atmosphere. The Empress Changsun gradually steadied herself, while Cheng Chumo felt the passage of time stretch painfully. The vigor of youth weighed heavily upon him, his hands nervously stirring the water. The Empress Changsun smiled, feeling pleased with her allure. Once the tribute from the various nations concludes, I shall assist you with your marriage, she declared. This was a matter only the Empress Changsun could dictate. Had it been any other family, they would have hastened the marriage long ago. Cheng Chumo had no mother, and his stepmother would not dare interfere in his affairs. Cheng Yaojin was a rough man, unconcerned with such matters. Cheng Chumo replied succinctly, relaxing slightly, almost causing the Empress Changsun to topple over. The Empress Changsun pinched Cheng Chumo's waist playfully. Can you handle this, dear mother? Please be cautious. Empress Changsun lamented, while Cheng Chumo wore an expression of deep remorse. Oh, he sighed, pressing his hands against the bottom of the pool, attempting to shift his position. His large hands inadvertently brushed against the Empress, causing her to shudder slightly. Was it intentional? For an entire hour, Cheng Chumo was restless. Despite her repeated pleas, he continued to fidget, making an already arduous situation even more unbearable. That's enough, Sun Simiao called from outside. The Empress breathed a sigh of relief. It was finally over. Had this continued, something unfortunate would have surely occurred. Cheng Chumo quickly emerged from the water and donned his clothing. I shall take my leave first, he said hurriedly, bending as he exited. Giggling, Empress Changsun leaned over the edge of the pool, lost in her thoughts. For a whole month, each day spent an hour here had indeed yielded results. Sun Simiao checked her pulse, noting its vigor had improved significantly. Her complexion was rosy. Today marked the final session. After this, there would be no need for Cheng Chumo to guide her heartbeat any longer. The two no longer resisted each other, exchanging laughter, their backs no longer stiff. Naturally close together. The divine physician is truly remarkable, Cheng Chumo remarked. A remedy for grave ailments must not be unfit to treat complex maladies to be deemed divine. Empress Changsun responded softly. She closed her eyes, inhaling deeply. It had been a long time since she felt such comfort. During the past half-month, she had been too preoccupied to think of anything else, anxiously awaiting her time with Cheng Chumo in the pool. Naturally, the thought of distress was unwelcome, and she longed for a swift resolution. Mother, do rest for a while, she murmured, her body relaxing as she dozed against Cheng Chumo. Chapter 105. Accompanying Li Chengxian to Liangzhou with the Empress's health on the mend, Cheng Chumo felt a weight lift from his heart. Business could take a back seat. Salt could be sold less or not at all, leaving the affluent families to earn ill-gotten gains without him. He would relish watching them squirm when the Tang dynasty faced a salt shortage. Once more, spring had arrived, marking the 8th year of the Jingguan era. During the morning court, a messenger reported, in Liangzhou, remnants of the Chang tribe have been discovered, traced back to the direction of the Western Turks. Emperor Li Shimin maintained a stoic demeanor, while the ministers appeared troubled. The Chang are not human. These remnants must not be spared, he declared. Cheng Chumo was tasked with eliminating the remnants. The ministers unanimously agreed, knowing Cheng Chumo inherited the fine tradition of his ancestor, Cheng Yaojin, ensuring no enemy escaped his wrath. I believe it would be best for His Highness the Crown Prince to lead the operation, with me assisting, Cheng Chumo said, bowing respectfully. Li Tai concurred. and the ministers echoed their agreement. If Li Chengxian could be sent away from Chang'an, it would be for the best by the time he returned. The crown prince's faction would likely have defected. Emperor Li Shimin regarded Cheng Chumo with confusion. Was he not aiding Gao Ming? What was happening? Had he been swayed by the Qing Ke? This was an ominous sign, as he was particularly sensitive to rebellion after seizing the throne. He glanced at Li Tai, who appeared undisturbed. Li Shimin chose to believe in the possibility of treachery. Since Cheng Chumo seemed inclined to side with Li Tai, it needed to be curtailed. Thus, he agreed to Cheng Chumo's suggestion to have the crown prince lead the 6 regiments of the Eastern Palace to eliminate the Chang remnants. Observing the reactions of the ministers with keen awareness, it was best they did not reveal any suspicions. Their fate would be dire. After court, Cheng Chumo arrived at the Eastern Palace, where the 6 regiments were convened, each face grave. After announcing his presence, he entered to find Li Chengxian adorned in light armor, a sword at his waist. You are aware? Cheng Chumo inquired. Li Chengxian looked puzzled, questioning Cheng Chumo's purpose. I am prepared, he stated solemnly. Cheng Chumo nodded. If you are ready, let us depart, as he pulled Li Chengxian from the Eastern Palace and into a carriage. Li Chengxian struggled against him. Cheng Chumo, let go. Where are you taking me? He had secretly prepared for rebellion, known only to the 6 regiments and himself. Little did he expect to be drawn from the imperial city by Cheng Chumo, thwarting his plans. During this journey to Liangzhou, you must heed my guidance. I cannot trust you in Chang'an, which is why you are coming with me. Do you have any objections? Cheng Chumo stated. Li Chengxian opened his mouth to protest. Who wants to go to Liangzhou? I wish to rebel. But it was too late. The 6 regiments had already exited the city, and the opportunity was lost. With a sigh of resignation, he slumped in the carriage, subdued. Are you blaming me for bringing you to Liangzhou? You will thank me later, Cheng Chumo reassured him. Li Shimin had been refining elixirs for nearly a year. This year, he would surely succeed. What would happen to him after consuming the immortal pill? Most likely, he would descend into madness. What would he think upon seeing the limping Li Chengxian? Surely, he would vent his wrath on him. While Li Chengxian seemed to have distanced himself from the center of power in Chang'an, he was, in fact, retreating to advance. Li Shimin's fury would not reach Li Chengxian. Those in Chang'an would suffer. Amidst his attempts to gather support, Li Tai would surely face dire consequences. Li Chengxian found himself at a loss for words. Cheng Chumo had led him away, and he had no means to express his frustration. He had prepared to take a gamble, to risk everything in a decisive moment. But who could have predicted the emergence of Cheng Chumo along the way? As the troop entered Fufeng County, Cheng Chumo assembled an elite unit, advancing lightly armed. Observing the special forces, Li Chengxian was intrigued. These soldiers, lacking heavy armor, must possess limited combat effectiveness. The rumors circulating outside were likely exaggerated. The special forces maintained a stoic demeanor, the only sound being the rhythmic clop of hooves as they pressed forward toward Liangzhou. On the road, they encountered a group, including Wang Xuanzi and Bu Shiren. Where are you headed? Cheng Chumo inquired. Recognizing the eunuch, he was surprised to see him outside the palace. Curious about his reasons for leaving, Bu Shiren appeared overjoyed upon seeing Cheng Chumo, bowing deeply. Greetings, Marquis. I shattered a glass lamp and am on my way to India to atone for my sins. His expression was one of bitterness, as if he were consorting with a tiger. Cheng Chumo understood, thinking to himself how fortunate the eunuchs were. Let us travel together, he suggested. Bu Shiren expressed gratitude. Glancing at Wang Xuanzi for approval, Wang Xuanzi thanked him and joined the group. Shall we walk? I find it bothersome to have the army trailing behind, Li Chengxian suggested. After finally leaving Chang'an, he wished to explore thoroughly. This was his intention. Cheng Chumo scoffed. Stroll? If you want to go, then go alone. He had no desire to accompany him on a leisurely excursion. Li Chengxian remained unaware that Cheng Chumo had led him out of Chang'an to help him evade a calamity. Let us take a walk. I have rarely left the palace in my life, he urged, gazing longingly at Cheng Chumo. Ultimately, Cheng Chumo acquiesced. He could not withstand that pleading look. The 3 strolled on foot, while one rode horseback. Li Chengxian, mounted, found everything fascinating. Cheng Chumo followed with a scowl. You are truly insufferable. If you possess good fortune, why squander it? Why drag me along? I wish to return, Cheng Chumo exclaimed in anger. Though words were exchanged, Cheng Chumo remained unconvinced of Li Chengxian's safety and chose to follow closely. Wang Xuanzi, on his journey to Tianzhu, took charge of leading the horses through Liangzhou, while Bu Shiren bore the burden of their belongings. This journey stretched on for half a month, a grueling endeavor that seemed to extend into an eternity. Li Chengxian. Liangzhou is currently ravaged by the Chang tribe, with the common folk suffering immensely. It would be wise for you to hasten your departure. Do you doubt my resolve to strike you? Cheng Chumo warned. Li Chengxian offered no reply, quickening his pace significantly. Upon finally reaching the borders of Liangzhou, they were met with a sight that sent Cheng Chumo into a fit of rage. A group of individuals clad in animal skins and adorned with horns were actively pursuing and terrorizing the populace. Cheng Chumo drew his sword and charged forward to block the horned assailants. Without further ado, he swiftly dispatched them, leaving them incapacitated on the ground. Wang Xuanzi approached and, through their cries, discerned that they were indeed Chang tribesmen. Cheng Chumo's expression turned grave. It was evident that officials had concealed the truth. Faced with such brutality upon entering Liangzhou, it was likely that a significant number of Chang had gathered here, possibly an entire tribe. They must be exterminated, he declared. His gaze icy. He approached Bushirin and fired a signal arrow into the sky, signaling their forces to converge. Wang Xuanzi brandished his sword, prepared to slay the remaining Chang. What are you doing? Have you lost your humanity? Why kill them when they will perish on their own? Cheng Chumo retorted. Wang Xuanzi felt a chill run through him. They were to be left alive in their broken state? The whispers of Cheng Chumo's lack of compassion echoed in his mind, now substantiated by his actions. In a matter of moments, the special forces arrived, followed by the 6th Battalion, which organized into 6 teams to subdue the Chang, forbidding lethal force, merely severing their limbs to ensure their demise. If their cries disturb you, silence them by removing their tongues, Cheng Chumo commanded. The 6th Battalion looked to Li Chengqian for direction. What do you seek from me? Once we leave Chang'an, all decisions rest with Cheng Chumo. I shall remain uninvolved. Li Chengqian stated, demonstrating his unwavering trust in Cheng Chumo's leadership. The 6th Battalion, taken aback, recognized Cheng Chumo as the foremost authority of the Eastern Palace and complied, advancing with their respective contingents. As night fell, they approached a flickering light. Cheng Chumo led his companions silently towards the source. Upon arrival, his eyes turned crimson with rage as he witnessed the Chang roasting a woman alive. The tattered figure of the woman screamed in terror, fueling the Chang's excitement as they cheered and prepared to place her upon the flames. Kill! Cheng Chumo bellowed, charging into the fray, the special forces following closely behind. He swiftly rescued the woman, wielding his sword without striking any of the Chang. Overcome with relief, the woman began to weep uncontrollably, attempting to embrace the handsome Li Chengqian, who recoiled in disgust. Repulsive. Stay away from me. Go to him. He pointed at Wang Xuanzi. Once the battle subsided, the Chang lay moaning on the ground. And Cheng Chumo, agitated by their cries, delivered a swift kick to one of their chins. The special forces mimicked his actions. Cheng Chumo began searching for any survivors. Finding only a few women alive amidst the gruesome scene, hundreds of men brutally slain, their suffering etched upon their faces, while the ground bore the remnants of children, their skeletal forms still stained with blood. Chang, I, Cheng Chumo, vow to annihilate your entire clan. If even one survives, may I endure the torment of 1,000 swords. He roared to the heavens. The special forces bowed their heads in silent acknowledgement, an oppressive stillness hanging in the air. Li Chengqian approached Cheng Chumo, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Do not rush, we shall ensure their complete eradication. Cheng Chumo inhaled deeply. You and Wang Xuanzi shall remain behind. I can no longer wait. With that, he mounted his horse, the special forces following suit. Li Chengqian waved him off with caution. As they encountered another group of Chang, the gluttonous tribe lay sprawled on the ground, relishing their spoils. Cheng Chumo observed from a distance. Brothers, do not blame me for my mercilessness. You have witnessed the atrocities committed against the men and the degradation of the women, not to mention the remains of the children. They are all subjects of the Tang dynasty. Remember, do not kill. I wish to see them suffer before they meet their end. His voice was icy. The special forces' eyes gleamed with resolve. Kill! Cheng Chumo commanded, his sword raised towards the Chang as they charged forward. Some Chang were trampled beneath the hooves of the horses, writhing in agony, while others fled in panic. The special forces pursued relentlessly, delivering blows without lethal intent. Soon, over 100 Chang were corralled, none remaining unscathed. Cheng Chumo approached, his voice devoid of emotion. Why do any Chang still stand? The special forces hastily drew their weapons to finish the task. Consider this. I predict you will not survive beyond 3 days. Best of luck. If hunger strikes, feel free to resort to cannibalism, for you are no human beings. Cheng Chumo declared, leading the special forces away to continue their cleansing. After half a month, Cheng Chumo arrived at the city of Liangzhou. The gates stood wide open, yet silence reigned. Entering the city, he was met with ruins and the countless skeletal remains that lined the roads. His grip on the saddle trembled slightly. After a thorough search, he located but a handful of children concealed within a well, the eldest no more than 10, the youngest merely 6. The children gazed at him with vacant eyes, stirring a deep sorrow within Cheng Chumo. No words could express the weight of his resolve to eradicate the Chang beasts. The special forces found a vacant dwelling to shelter the children, while Cheng Chumo continued his pursuit, determined to uncover the whereabouts of the Chang's main force. He was resolute in his mission to eliminate them entirely. As a nomadic tribe, the Chang would not linger in one place for long. He reached the city lord's residence, now a shadow of its former self, having been ravaged by fire. Continuing his search around the gates, he discovered numerous tracks leading northward. Cheng Chumo rallied his men to pursue. Day and night they traveled, finally catching up to the Chang's trail. Cheng Chumo beheld a procession ahead, comprising roughly 1,000 Chang and several hundred Tang subjects, bound like livestock. Kill! Cheng Chumo uttered, drawing his sword, infused with a thirst for vengeance. In a single hour, no Chang remained standing. The special forces freed the Tang captives from their restraints. Which way did they go? Cheng Chumo inquired. The liberated civilians, overwhelmed with joy, were unable to respond. In which direction did they flee? Cheng Chumo's voice thundered, causing the crowd to tremble in fear. A child timidly pointed the way. Cheng Chumo and the special forces continued their pursuit. Over 30 miles later, they encountered another group of over 1,000 Chang, who were in the midst of regrouping. Several Chang were taking turns tormenting a woman who, desperate for escape, bit her tongue in a futile attempt at self-destruction. Her gaze turned vacant as she stared at the sky. Where are you, Tang army? Your people are being oppressed. She mumbled, her voice barely audible. The Chia tribe, having grown weary from their exploits, resolved to deal with a woman in a brutal manner, preparing to cook her for sustenance. At that moment, Cheng Chumo and his men arrived, and he heard the woman's final words, her eyes stained with blood tears. Cheng Chumo launched into a frenzied assault, his heart growing colder with each act of violence, leaving him numbed. Countless souls had perished in such a tragic fashion, and he believed that the only way to eradicate such horrors was to eliminate all enemies. Only through bloodshed could one cleanse hatred. Only blood could repay the debts of vengeance. After dealing with the Chia tribesmen, he paid no heed to the civilians, relentlessly pursuing the enemy. The townsfolk, seizing discarded weapons, butchered the Chia into a pulp, weeping as they sought solace for their deceased kin. Cheng Chumo continued his pursuit, the carnage unchanged, his gaze frozen in a mechanical resolve. Ahead lay the border of the Western Turkic realm, marked by an opulent tent not far from the frontier. Inside, a young Turk was laughing heartily, facing a Chia tribesman. My noble prince, we have plundered vast riches this time, the Chia boasted. The prince shook his head, a look of dissatisfaction crossing his face. This is merely the beginning. The Tang Empire has signed a non-aggression pact with my father. From now on, it will only be you who can venture forth. He cast his gaze towards Liangzhou, feeling a tinge of disappointment. In the days of the Sui dynasty, they would plunder 3 regions in one sweep. Now, they had only taken a single place. A Chia tribesman rushed into the hall, gesturing animatedly and speaking at length. The tribal leader frowned, dismissing his kin before addressing the prince. The Tang army approaches. We must flee. The prince waved dismissively, his demeanor nonchalant. What of it? Do they dare cross the border? Without the emperor's command, the Tang troops would never venture beyond. Such has been the law throughout history. Outside the tent, chaos erupted. Run! The Tang army is coming. The soldiers of the Western Turks cried out. The prince emerged, seizing a soldier by the collar. Fool, what are you shouting about? The Tang army? They have been oppressed by us for hundreds of years. When will sheep ever eat meat? He bellowed, drawing a dagger from his boot and plunging it into the soldier's chest. Fools do not deserve to live. Dust swirled in the Tang territory as 300 riders pursued to the border. Do not worry, they will not dare cross, the Western Turkic prince proclaimed confidently. However, he underestimated Cheng Chumo's resolve. In Cheng Chumo's mind, there were no borders. The land beneath his steed's hooves was merely territory, and the edge of his sword spared no soul. The 300 riders surged past the boundary without hesitation, slaying all in their path. The Western Turkic prince watched in horror as the Tang soldiers dared to breach the frontier. Hold your ground. Hold firm, he shouted in panic, his voice drowned by the thunder of hooves. The Chia fled in a frenzied rout, and the prince's face turned pale with rage. He scorned their cowardice, branding them as nothing more than curs of the Western Turks. After dispatching the remaining Chia and Western Turkic soldiers, Cheng Chumo approached the lavish tent, looking down upon the prince. Did you command those Chia to pillage Liangzhou? He asked, his tone cold and detached. The prince felt a chill of fear. That has nothing to do with me, he stammered, only to receive a swift response from Cheng Chumo's blade, severing his arm. Ah, he screamed, clutching the wound and writhing in agony. Did you or did you not command them to plunder Liangzhou? Cheng Chumo pressed further, not seeking an answer, but merely posing the question. It was the weak who required justification. Losing interest, Cheng Chumo delivered a final blow and resumed his pursuit. The prince died without comprehending why the Tang soldiers dared to cross the border, or why they would kill him. Was the notion of a national war truly insignificant to him? Crossing the boundary, Cheng Chumo continued his relentless hunt, slaying anyone in sight. This was no longer Tang territory. There were no Tang citizens here, and the situation simplified. All that stood before him were foes. The Chia fled to a tribal stronghold, offering their plundered wealth in exchange for refuge. The tribal leader, dismissing Cheng Chumo and his special forces, was confident. He was no minor tribe. With 2,000 warriors mounted on horseback, they could dominate the region. Rest assured, they are merely a small group of homeless Tang soldiers. You can safely remain here, he assured. He believed Cheng Chumo must have committed some crime in Tang, leading him to mistakenly enter Turkic lands. Little did he know, the Turkic realm was far more brutal than Tang. A cruel smile spread across his face as he rallied his cavalry to confront Cheng Chumo, eyeing the 1,000 steeds he commanded. Half an hour later, Cheng Chumo arrived at the site, lacking a map, unaware of its name, but knowing it lay within Western Turkic territory. Should we capture a tongue? Asked the captain of the special forces. Cheng Chumo shook his head. No need. That tribe ahead is significant. Leave no survivors. With that, he spurred his horse forward. The tribal leader had just assembled his cavalry, riding proudly atop his steed, which pawed at the ground. Before he could issue orders, Cheng Chumo burst into the tribe, striking down anyone he encountered. The tribal leader's eyes blazed with fury. Kill them all, he commanded. The cavalry met the special forces in battle. Indeed, the Western Turkic riders excelled in horsemanship, executing intricate maneuvers, some even standing atop their mounts. However, they were vastly outmatched in slaughter. While the special forces may have lacked skill in riding, their prowess in combat was undeniable. Each blow from their blades was precise, targeting vital points, and they would even dismount to pursue their foes on foot. This scene felt eerily familiar to the tribal leader. He recalled a night from his childhood, living near the eastern Turkic borders. His tribe had ventured to raid Yuzhou, only to face calamity, pursued by 19 warriors into the grasslands, believing safety awaited them back home. Yet, their tribe faced utter annihilation. 3,000 souls perished, with only he surviving, hidden beneath a horse's belly. The most vivid memory remained those figures chasing after their steeds. The enemies before him now evoked that haunting image he could never forget. From that moment on, he dared not remain in eastern Turkic territory, fleeing westward to evade those harbingers of death. Impossible, impossible. The tribal leader's gaze glazed over as he witnessed his kin slaughtered, the horrific memories resurfacing. The Turkic cavalry fell like wheat before the scythe, yet the most terrifying aspect was that not a single enemy suffered injury. A shiver ran through him. Run, run, he cried, turning his horse away from the battlefield. Accompanying him in the chase were the Chong people, who had lost their former defiance, now resembling quails, their spirits crushed by the slaughter. They may bully sheep, but would never dare confront wolves. Cheng Chumo and his special forces were the wolves, bloodthirsty and merciless. The Chong, embodying a nature of savagery, were not as formidable as they believed. With the chieftain fleeing, the fate of the tribe was all but sealed. Those who could escape fled with all their might, while those who could not knelt in prayer to the heavens. The special forces, unfazed by their plight or the size of the enemy, were resolute. They were determined fighters, having slain their fellow prisoners to join the ranks. Even more ruthless than the first batch of special forces. As night fell, not a single soul remained alive in a medium-sized tribe. An ear can be exchanged for money. 2 coins for 1, Cheng Chumo declared. He was intent on instilling fear in the Western Turks, and that meant slaughter. Yuzhou had the 18 riders of Yanyun, while Liangzhou boasted the special forces. Who would dare to come? The monetary value of an ear stemmed from Cheng Chumo's regrets. None from the first group of special forces had ever established families or left heirs. This was his sorrow and the tragedy of the special forces. Cheng Chumo vowed not to let such a fate befall them again, deciding instead to secure wives and ensure future generations for his men. The 2 coins per ear were inconsequential. He had never lacked for money. This incursion into the Western Turks would yield considerable wealth, which he deemed unworthy but perfect as rewards for his special forces. The special forces, invigorated, sprang into action with remarkable speed. Once the task was complete, they gathered to count the ears. Cheng Chumo surveyed the scene, resolved to rest for the night and resume the pursuit the following day. One special soldier, however, wore a troubled expression, on the verge of tears. As he watched his comrades repeatedly count ears, he realized he had none to tally. He had made a mistake. Li Chengxian had mentioned the left ear. He had brought back the right. Ears are worth money, but what is a right ear worth? He lamented as Cheng Chumo approached. My lord, I cannot tell left from right. Li Chengxian, exasperated, shot him a glare. A right ear counts too. Go and count it. The special forces cheered with excitement and resumed their counting. The camp was soon filled with the sounds of their enumeration. 1, 2, 3, 9, and then start over. After a while, Cheng Chumo inquired, have you all finished counting? Let us gather the totals. He preferred not to send his men into battle burdened with a heap of ears. The special forces eagerly reported their findings. My lord, I have 9 ears. My lord, I also have 9. Cheng Chumo frowned in confusion. How could there be so few ears among the multitude of corpses? Are you certain? He asked, his brow furrowed. The special forces nodded vigorously. Yes, 9. No mistake. Cheng Chumo approached one special soldier, eyeing the pile of ears at his feet. Is this 9? Cheng Chumo asked. The soldier nodded emphatically. Yes, 9. Count again, Cheng Chumo instructed. The soldier crouched to recount. 1, 2, 3, 9. He recited before starting anew. 1, 2, 3, 9. Rising. He reported, my lord, it is 9, without a doubt. Cheng Chumo slapped his forehead, suppressing laughter. This was his oversight. It was not the soldier's fault. They had never studied, and counting to 9 was their limit. In their eyes, 9 was the maximum. Thus, they rejoiced, envisioning 9 coins for 9 years. Returning home to marry and bear 9 children. 9 was the extreme, yet it could also be infinite. Cheng Chumo opted to remain silent and find a place to rest. If they declared it 9, then let it be 9. He would distribute the rewards uniformly upon their return. After a night of rest, they would continue the hunt. Half a month later, only 100 Chong remained. The fleeing horde had swelled to over 10,000. None daring to glance back at the special forces. This was the deterrence born of slaughter. 300 pursued 10,000. Ahead lay a small fortress, its earthen walls towering over 3 meters. Cheng Chumo observed the walls from a distance. Interesting. Bring the cattle, he commanded. The cattle were ownerless, provisions for the special forces. They drove thousands of cows forward, and with a single stroke, sent them charging. The walls crumbled like tofu beneath the stampede. Cheng Chumo shook his head. This was the disparity. When they raided the Tang, commoners could not withstand the cavalry. Now, deep within the Western Turks, their defenses crumbled like paper, offering no substantial resistance. The exterior appeared golden, but the interior was rotting. The vast, sparsely populated land of the Western Turks required considerable time to organize an invasion, and gathering troops was exceedingly difficult. Cheng Chumo drew his copper sword, pointing it toward the ravaged fortress. Kill them all. Each man will be rewarded with 2 wives. He bellowed. The special forces' eyes burned with desire. Women. They charged forth, while the more than 10,000 who had just entered the city fled in panic, abandoning their possessions. The Turkic inhabitants, still organizing their defense, were scattered by the stampede of cattle. The special forces swiftly arrived, and witnessing their kin falling one by one, the city lord was struck with terror. This was a calamity beyond comprehension. Helplessly, he ordered a retreat, tears in his eyes. You escort the children away. Let the women stand at the front, he commanded. This was the Turkic tradition. In times of